In the DC world, I start with Ultraman. While this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter God on Earth. In the city of Polis, dozens of robots were destroying the city according to orders. I don't know how Ruto chose the technology tree, but these robots that looked weak could withstand the crazy output of various energy weapons. Squeak. A hook with a rope shot out and tied a robot tightly. I don't know what material the rope is made of, but the machine couldn't break free even with its output. The next moment, a yellow and purple figure passed by the robot, and after installing a bomb at the weak point, it attacked the next robot. Ding ding, boom. Along with the flames, a robot disappeared in the explosion. Too many. Fatman felt a little difficult to deal with such a large number of robots by himself, especially the black robot. Just from the appearance, Fatman knew that it was not easy to solve. He touched his belt, took out an explosive dart from it, and destroyed the robot again in the same way. But this time, Luto learned his lesson. A robot specially designed for Fatman ejected its folded arms and caught Fatman, who was flying in the air with nowhere to get support. Ha ha ha. I finally caught you, Fatman. Luto stepped on the flying machine and came to Fatman, who was caught by the robot, and laughed obscenely. Unlike Luther, Luto was very simple. He was so simple that he just wanted to rule the arena. Luto. You won't succeed. Fatman suddenly shouted, attracting Luto's attention, and began to look for a way to escape. Luto smiled obscenely. It's a pity that this world is a winner and the loser is the enemy. Fatman, whoever is stronger has the qualification to rule this world. Fatman didn't say anything. He quietly took out the tools to destroy the robot's sensor system. Just when Fatman was about to escape, a figure suddenly sounded above Fatman and Luto. So, I'm the one who is most qualified to rule the world. At the same time, Fatman and Ruto looked up at the figure standing in the sky. Jello stood in the air, slightly raised his left arm with the new watch, pressed two buttons with his right hand, and the movement popped out. Then he turned the dial until the holographic projection was left on a pair of rings. Then, Jello slapped the dial heavily with his right hand, thinking that this is it. A flash of light flashed, and two rings appeared on the middle fingers of Jello's left and right hands. Ace. After shouting, Jello made the two rings collide heavily, and the ace armor was draped on him. In fact, according to reason, he didn't need armor in Zerna, but who made him used to fighting in armor? It's you. Seeing this, Ruto's pupils shrank suddenly, and fear appeared on his face. Let your alien friend come out. Jello hooked his finger at Ruto, his tone stern. Also, my name is Ultraman, remember this. Swoosh. The next second, Jello disappeared. When Fatman saw Jello again, Jello had already appeared behind Ruto. He just touched Ruto lightly, and all the bones in Ruto's body were shattered. Ah! Because Jello's speed was too fast, it took 3 seconds for Ruto to scream like a pig being slaughtered. Fatman, who had just escaped from the robot, looked at the scene in front of him, and his emotions were a bit complicated. He needed to pay a lot to grow to this point, but the alien in front of him could do it easily, and was even stronger. As for Ruto, Fatman said that he really didn't know him, and it didn't matter to him if he died. Then, Jello destroyed Ruto's aircraft, causing him to fall naturally. If no one caught him, he would probably be a pile of mud in a while. Squeak. Fatman fired the hook gun again, but this time he aimed at Ruto. The rope was wrapped around Ruto's round belly several times before he was tied up. After that, the hook was controlled by Fatman to hang Ruto on a pole. Without the previous arrogant attitude, Ruto even begged Fatman for mercy. Oh, my dear Fatman, I was wrong this time, please, shut up. Fatman slapped Ruto in the face, and after making Ruto sober up, Fatman laughed darkly. I just won't kill you, but I won't save you either, Ruto. You just wait here to be handcuffed again. If you before that, I won't care. This is Zerna. Fatman is not Batman. Fatman does not have Batman's ethics. In his eyes, as long as someone does not die immediately in front of him, it is not considered that he killed him personally. Then, Fatman left, leaving only Ruto, who was screaming. With the help of supervision and hearing, it is not difficult to find an alien. At this time, Jello stood in front of the Diaspora Starbadia. Don't run away. There is no point in hiding from me on this planet. What a life with great potential. As he spoke, Badia blew out a breath of white air from his nose, and then he took out a spear that was not comparable to their high-tech race. But before I die in battle, I will fight to the end. Puff, what's that sound? Badia widened his eyes and looked down at his chest in disbelief. Jello's fist pierced through Badia's chest, and in a moment, Badia's life would pass away. Jello curled his lips and laughed. Fighting me here? Don't be stupid. After that, Jello pulled out his fist, and purple blood spurted out of Badia's chest like a hot spring. As for other Dicebora stars, will they find out about this guy's death and then vent their anger on Jiren? There is no need to worry about this. Jirel has Jirel on his side. As long as he plugs the usable connector into the ship that brought Badia to Zerna, Jirel can fake an accident and make other Dicebora people think that Badia died in the accident, thus ensuring Zerna's safety. After dealing with Badia, Jirel flew into the sky again, and his eyes swept over all the robots that were still active. Then he released the freezing ray, freezing all the robots on the spot. Only one black robot barely escaped the fate of being frozen, but it could not escape the fate of being blown up by Jirel. This is power, the power to control a planet. The power that Jirel now possesses is enough to be called the power of a god on Earth. Chapter Home is a wrong A. Although he now possesses extraordinary power, Jello knows very well that the power brought by absorbing radon with the human physique is not stable. With the preliminary research results in the Kryptonian spaceship research room some time ago, Jello was able to understand what kind of damage quartz can cause to Earthlings who absorb radon. Take Jello himself as an example. As long as quartz appears around him with a radius of 10 meters, it will take away superpowers within 1 second. Jello is also a mixed blood. If a pure-blooded Earthling comes, the restraint effect will be even stronger. The upper limit is actually far lower than that of the Kryptonians who have absorbed the yellow sun, but there are too many Earthlings. If 1 billion humans absorb radon, even Clark will feel a certain degree of pressure. After rescuing some victims, Jello stood in the ruins and saw a pile of fat crushed by stones. With supervision that can see South structure, Jello can be sure that the man is Rutu. Maybe he was crushed by the rocks in a panic, Jello thought secretly. Excuse me, what are you doing on this planet? A voice rang out behind Jello. Jello turned around and found it was Factman, so he casually replied. I'm just a wanderer passing by, no need to remember. Factman was silent, and then watched Jello disappear. After resolving all the issues, Jello returned to the spaceship. Little Krypton had also completed his mission to find that Dicebora spaceship. Jirel would hack into the spaceship through the locator, so that the spaceship was about to return, but it was destined to have an accident. Good dog. Jello praised Little Krypton, and then played with Little Krypton. One day passed quickly, and Jirel's spaceship modification project was completed, and he brought Jello and Little Krypton to the launch cabin. Looking at the small spaceship that looked very patchwork, Jello immediately asked Jirel, Mr. Jirel, have you cut some of the functions of the spaceship? Ahem. Jirel coughed twice and added, the structure of the spaceship is relatively old. In order to fit the Phantom engine, I deleted the sleep system. Sleeping system? Does that mean I may have to watch the whole flight process? Jello asked with blinking eyes. Yes. After hearing Jirel's answer, Jello didn't say anything. There was a lack of supplies here, and it was good that Jirel could do this. Just think of it as a very long sightseeing car ride. I have cleared the rock formation at the launch port, and there will be no accidents. Jirel looked at Jello and said, after you leave the orbit of this planet, this spaceship will disappear forever. I understand. Jello nodded, and then took Krypton into the cabin of the escape spaceship. The cabin was very crowded, and one person and one dog could only be said to be barely squeezed in. It was very difficult to move. February 3, 2001, launch, Jello, see you on Earth. Jirel finished his words. After many years, he launched another spaceship to Earth. Then, the spaceship engine started, carrying Jello and Krypton out of Zerna. First the troposphere, then the stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and finally the exosphere. The gravity of the planet could no longer control the spaceship, and the spaceship buried deep in the mountain also ended its mission and disappeared from this world forever. Even through the hatch of the spaceship, Jello could still feel the depth of the boundless universe. Countless planets shone brightly in his eyes, but they still could not illuminate the dark universe. This beautiful scene did not last long. The Phantom engine of the spaceship started at maximum power, the surrounding space and time were distorted, the wormhole opened, and the spaceship entered it. Behind Jello and Krypton's spaceship, another huge spaceship appeared, which also had a distinct Kryptonian style. The symbol of the L family. Inside the spaceship, a general in majestic armor saw the S-shaped symbol on the escape spaceship, and then ordered, "Follow." Jello couldn't describe the scene inside the wormhole. He could only feel that the feeling inside was so fantastic that it was enough to be imprinted in the deepest part of his memory. When he opened his eyes again, Jello saw the planet he had not seen for a long time, the Earth. The aquamarine ocean and those familiar continental plates made Jello want to kick the hatch open and fall freely. Boom. Accompanied by flames and explosions, the spaceship finally landed in a mountain forest. Jello kicked the hatch open, and a familiar figure appeared in front of him, stretched out his big hand, and said kindly, "Welcome back, Jello." Click. Jello's eyes lit up. Red and blue uniforms, S-shaped logo, bright red cloak, and that very iconic curly hair. "Dad told me, so I've been waiting for you here for a long time." Click stretched out his hand to Jello. Jello stretched out his right hand and shook it. The familiar feeling made his eyes red. On the side, Krypton also barked happily after seeing Click. "Woof woof woof. Oh, you're the Krypton that Dad told me about. What a well-behaved puppy." Click cast his eyes on Krypton. This puppy, whose superpowers are strong enough to make many superheroes on Earth ashamed, became very well-behaved after seeing his owner and was ready to obey orders at any time. Jello released his right hand and said to Click, "I want to go back to Kansas first to see my parents. As for Metropolis, I want to go back later." "Okay, Mom and Dad miss you too. After all, you have been away for more than a year, Jello." Click patted Jello's shoulder and told a fact that surprised Jello. "What? It has been more than a year?" Jello's eyes widened, his expression full of surprise. The revolution time at different planets is completely different, not to mention the war world that is unknown how far away from the Milky Way. Even if Jello later used the timekeeping method of the Earth, it would still be different from that of the Earth. Jello only remembered that it was around October 2012, and he had been away from Earth for more than a year. Did he miss something? "It's April 3, 2014, Jello," Click said slowly, and he left the ground little by little, and stretched out his hand to signal Jello to follow. "It's already 2014, time flies so fast," Jello muttered to himself, then jumped, broke free from the shackles of gravity, followed Click, and embarked on the journey home. Zing family. The Earth flew over lakes, grasslands, and mountains, and the familiar town gradually appeared in Jello's eyes. Landing beside his own field, Jello found that his eyes were gradually moistening, and his Adam's apple was constantly jumping up and down. "Don't just stand here if you miss home." Click smiled and patted Jello on the back, asking Jello not to stand there. He looked at Jello's current outfit and said, "Also, go back and change your clothes first. If you say you are going to fight aliens in this outfit, everyone will believe it." Hearing this, Jello noticed that he was still dressed in a tight combat uniform and a black coat. If it was a wanderer returning home, then this outfit would really be inappropriate. At this time, Click said to Jello, "Mom and Dad have gone to the city. I will take this spaceship back to the Fortress of Solitude. How about you give Mom and Dad a surprise at home?" "Okay." Jello's voice was a little hoarse. "Then I will go back to the Fortress of Solitude with Krypton first, and I will be back soon, Jello," Click said to Jello, and then took the spaceship and Krypton to the Fortress of Solitude. After Click and Krypton left, Jello walked towards the farmhouse he had not seen for a long time step by step. His legs became heavy with longing. It had nothing to do with strength. Only the softest part of his heart could make Jello look like this. Pushing open the creaking old wooden door, stepping on the paint-chipped wooden floor, taking a breath of air, Jello walked into the living room on the first floor. The TV that occasionally needed to be tapped to take shape, the green sofa with several patches on it, the carefully trimmed potted plants, were exactly the same as he remembered, without any changes. Walking to the bookshelf, Jello saw the religious books that the Kents read every day, the fairy tales that Jello loved to read when he was a child, and the astronomy picture books that the Kents bought when Jello was 8 years old. These books were well preserved, without a wrinkle or a speck of dust. On a grid of the bookshelf were several photo frames, which contained the Kent family's beautiful memories, including Martha and Jonathan's wedding photo, Click's first farm work photo, and Jello's fiddling with tools. On the photo frame that protected the family portrait, Jello found some tear marks. Taking the photo frame in his hand, Jello gently wiped away the tear marks with his hand, and murmured in a low voice, "Sorry, I made you worry." As if apologizing to his parents who were not here, Jello gently put the photo frame back. Then, Jello went upstairs to his room door, turned the brass doorknob, and Jello pushed the white wooden door open. There was a single bed in the room, with very neat bedding on the bed. Next to it was a table with a toolbox on it. Next to it were several Sherlock Holmes collections that Jello bought from the second-hand market. There was also no dust, and it seemed that someone would come to take care of them frequently. Not far from the end of the bed was a wardrobe, which contained Jello's clothes from childhood to adulthood. Although he had been away for more than a year, there was no peculiar smell in the closet. Jello could even smell a faint fragrance on his clothes. After finding a white t-shirt, a denim jacket and a pair of jeans, as well as a pair of canvas shoes and a piece of underwear in the closet, Jello went to the bathroom to wash himself. The not-so-pure water, after being purified by the water purifier and water heater, could also wash away Jello's fatigue. About 15 minutes later, Jello finished his shower, dried his body, picked up a noisy electric hairdryer to dry his hair, and changed into the clothes he had prepared. Jello seemed to have turned back into the pure boy. As if it was destined, Jello, who had just finished taking care of himself, heard the sound of the door being pushed open, and the footsteps of two people appeared in his ears. Jello smiled knowingly, then walked to the couple who had returned home and gave them the biggest surprise. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." With a smile, Jello gave the couple who had put so much effort into him and Claire the biggest gift. "Jello, you're back." Uncontrollably, Martha covered her mouth with her hands. Facing her second son who had been missing for a long time, she could no longer control her emotions and let her eyes wet with tears. Looking at the grown-up child, Jonathan controlled his emotions while walking in front of Jello, patted Jello's shoulder with his palm, and measured it with his own hand. "Smelly boy, you've grown up so much. You must have suffered a lot outside. Yes, it's better to be at home." Looking at the two people who care about him, Jello's nose was sour and his heart was mixed with mixed feelings. Martha, who had recovered, gave Jello a warm hug and sobbed and expressed her feelings. "Anyway, it's good to be back. Mom will make your favorite food tonight. I'm back." At this time, a figure appeared outside the door. It was Clerk, who was wearing a red plaid jacket. When Jonathan saw Clerk, he was a little angry. He walked in front of Clerk and hit Clerk's chest like complaining. Did you know Jello would come back and deliberately not tell us? You little brat." "Ha ha ha ha." Clerk laughed awkwardly, touching the back of his head while explaining, "How could I do such a thing? Don't talk nonsense to me." Although Jonathan was harsh in his words, when he saw Jello, he didn't have a single complaint in his heart. The family was united again, and everyone was very happy. At dinner, Martha made a lot of Jello's favorite food, and ended the dinner with laughter. After dinner, Claire helped Martha back to the room to rest. During this period, Martha's health became a little worse, and it was difficult for her to engage in agricultural activities. Now all the farmland of the Kent family is managed by Jonathan alone. Like when he was a child, Jello climbed onto the roof, lay on the red roof, looked at the stars in the sky, and felt relaxed. Climbing onto the roof again. At this time, a voice suddenly came from below. Jello knew who it was without thinking. "Dad." Jello half sat up and saw a man with many white hairs on his temples and a little aging skin. Jonathan said to Jello, "You little brat, you always like to run to dangerous places. It's so high, and it won't hurt me." Jello touched his nose and smiled. "Don't say that, stay there, wait for me to go up, and I'll make you suffer." Jonathan pretended to be angry, and brought a ladder, climbing up to the roof step by step. He moved his body and came to Jello's side. After taking a look at the starry sky, he looked at Jello and asked gently, "You have a hard time out there, kid?" And his son, Earth at night, under the starlight, on the roof of a farmhouse, Jonathan, who was slowly entering old age, expressed his most sincere condolences to his adopted son who had been missing for a long time but finally returned home. Hearing this, Jello shook his head and said subconsciously, "It's nothing, Dad." The breeze blew the white hair at Jonathan's temples. He looked at Jello. Without guessing, he knew that Jello had suffered a lot outside. "You are the same as Clerk. You like to keep some things in your heart, as if you can solve everything." Hearing this, Jello was a little silent. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but finally swallowed it back. Those difficult battles finally turned into a sentence that sounded very easy. Those things are a little difficult to deal with, but you can win if you grit your teeth. Hearing this, Jonathan glanced at Jello and said, "I know you don't want me to worry. Dad is old and can't help you and Clerk. I can only say that no matter what, just do your best. I have also seen what happened to you in Metropolis on TV. Many times, your mother and I are very worried that you will get hurt. No, Dad, I'm very strong. I can defeat an army now and beat the aliens. In order to dispel Jonathan's worries, Jello smiled and made a fist gesture. Don't come on. Jonathan smiled at Jello's fist gesture, then put his hand on Jello's shoulder and said solemnly, no matter what, in the eyes of Martha and me, you and Claire are our children. As long as we are alive, we will worry about you. This is something that only parents can feel. You don't understand it now, but you will understand it in the future. Jello was speechless for a while. A long time ago, before crossing into the DC world, Jello had heard similar words of concern. Even if they were in a different world, this most sincere feeling would not change at all. Just do what you can, Jello. Sometimes, if you encounter a villain that you cannot defeat, you don't have to blame yourself. If you cannot win, you cannot win. As long as you have tried your best, it is enough. No matter when, Martha and I are proud of you. Jonathan patted Jello on the shoulder and said a long and somewhat long-winded sentence to Jello. Not disliking Jonathan's long-windedness, Jello used his sleeve to wipe away the tears that had not yet completely flowed out of his eyes. He choked a few times and said, Dad, I have always known about your hard work. Jonathan continued to say to Jello, but sometimes experiencing heartache and pain is also a very important time. In order to make the crops harvest, it is necessary to have rain for irrigation, so after shedding a lot of sweat and tears, there will definitely be a harvest. That's a good idea, Dad. Tell me the truth, how long have you thought about this? Jello suddenly became talkative. Kid. Jonathan smiled, then shook his head and said, I didn't think about it for that long. I just thought about it before dinner. I was still worried that you wouldn't give me a chance to speak. I know what you mean, Dad, but sometimes I can't give up the fight and think that's enough. Jello replied. At this point, Jello felt mixed emotions, and all kinds of emotions surged in his heart. But you are not God, you are not omnipotent. Jonathan said with a smile. This small-town farmer who has worked hard for most of his life said something very meaningful. Go save everything you can save, but don't give up easily in the process. Do you understand me, Jello? Jello nodded and answered Jonathan in the most solemn tone, I understand, Father, I will fight with this mood, I will save everything I can save, I will become stronger, until I become the last brave man who brings peace to the universe. The last brave man who brings peace to the universe. Ha ha ha, what a good dream, Dad hopes to see this scene one day. Hearing Jello's very broad dream, Jonathan did not think Jello was too imaginative. As a father, he only wanted to give his children the most sincere expectations. At this time, the weather was a little cold. Although Jello could not feel it, Jonathan was obviously shivering. He stood up from the roof while holding his waist and said, Okay, it's not early, I'll go down first, you can stay here for a while, anyway, my old bones can't hold it. Let me help you. Jello hurriedly got up, fearing that Jonathan would be injured. I'm not as old as you think. Jonathan smiled with a warm heart, but in the end he returned to the ground with Jello's help. After the father and son had a heart-to-heart talk, they went back to their rooms to rest. That night, all four of them rested well. After that, Jello stayed in Smallville for another 2 days. He helped Martha fix the TV and home appliances, adjusted the farm tools at home, and milked the cows by the way. After doing a lot of things, Jello returned to Metropolis. Back in Metropolis, breathing the not-so-fresh air, Jello, who came to Metropolis by Greyhound bus, was waiting for Claire. A blue car stopped in front of Jello. Claire, who was sitting in the driver's seat, rolled down the window, unlocked the door, and motioned Jello to get in the car. After Jello got in the car, he said to Jello, Come on, Jello, I'll take you to the apartment. The garage you used to live in was returned by me, and I rented a new apartment for you. Apartment? The monthly rent is not a small amount, right? Sitting in a co-pilot, Jello asked Claire. It's okay. I recently received a large amount of money for my writing. The apartment is short-term. Once you finish your SAT in May and report to the university with your acceptance letter, the lease of the apartment will expire. Claire said while driving. Okay. Hearing Claire's words, Jello dispelled his doubts. Not long after, Claire drove Jello to the downstairs of an apartment building. After handing a bunch of keys to Jello, Claire hurriedly said that he was leaving. I won't take you upstairs. Just remember that it's a 301. I'll put your things in there for you. I have something else to do at the newspaper, so I'll leave first. Looking at Claire's appearance, Jello knew what was going on. He took the keys and got out of the car. Before leaving, he said to Claire, "If I had to guess, it's probably not work, but a date." Hearing this, Claire blushed, and quickly rolled up the car window, stepped on the accelerator and left Jello's sight. After Claire left, Jello walked into the apartment building alone. He found a 301, took out the key and was about to open it, but a voice stopped him. "Long time no see, Jello-kun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 301. In the apartment building on Earth, Jello stopped when he was about to open the door. He turned around and looked at the person who called him. "Lena Luthor. Why are you in a wheelchair?" Jello looked at Lena Luthor, who appeared in front of him but was sitting in a wheelchair in disbelief. After more than a year, Lena seemed to have become more beautiful, and her facial features were more beautiful than before. When it was getting hot, she was still wearing a white turtleneck shirt, which seemed to be covering something. Her two immobile legs were wearing a pair of black trousers and a pair of small leather shoes. The simple clothes did not cover up Lena's beauty. If she was not in a wheelchair and could show her style freely, she would be more beautiful. Although Jello's words were a bit rude, Lena didn't care. She smiled lightly. "It's just a common car accident." "Sorry, I mentioned something you don't want to mention." Jello apologized. "Nothing." Lena shook her head. The past year seemed to have smoothed her edges and corners, making her look like she had lived a peaceful life. She looked at Jello carefully and said, "But you have become much more handsome after being missing for more than a year, Jello." Looking at Lena sitting in a wheelchair, Jello was a little confused as to why this young lady appeared in such a civilian apartment, but he was very tactful and did not ask any more questions. Even if he had never eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. Jello could probably guess that Lena was involved in a family fight and became a victim. "Thank you for the compliment, Lena." Jello replied politely. After more than a year of adventure, Jello had a sense of perseverance. He no longer looked like a child, and the charm of a mature man began to emerge. Lena smiled and said, "I will live in the 302 opposite you in the future. If there is anything, please bear with me, a young lady who doesn't know how to live." For some reason, Jello felt that Lena emphasized the word life very much, as if she was deliberately hinting at something. "Okay, we're classmates after all, just tell me if you have anything to say." Jello replied. "Thank you very much, Jello." Lena nodded. "I won't bother you for now, I wish you a good score in the SAT in May." After that, Lena turned the joystick on the wheelchair to make the wheelchair rotate 180 degrees on the spot, and then pushed the joystick forward, and the smart wheelchair drove towards the door of a 302. Before Lena pushed the door open, Jello turned around and opened the door of a 301. The interior of the apartment is not too big, with a living room that is also used as a dining room, plus a kitchen consisting of a refrigerator and a small kitchen counter, and then walking inside is the bedroom and bathroom. The total area is about 60 square meters. Jello is still very comfortable living alone. Walking into the bedroom, Jello opened the closet and found that his old things were all there. It seems that Claire helped him organize them and move them here. There are also several cardboard boxes next to the bed, which contained some of Jello's sundries. After using telekinesis to sort out the things and cleaning up, Jello took out a box of milk from the refrigerator and sat on the sofa to rest. "Really? How can Claire still treat me as a child? The drinks in the refrigerator are all milk and carbonated drinks." Jello drank a box of milk indignantly and began to complain about why Claire still treated him as a child. Before leaving the Earth, he was already 17 years old. Now, more than a year later, he is also 19 years old. Why is he still drinking these children's drinks? I'd better go to the street to buy some other drinks in the future. Jello glanced at the wallet in his pocket and said. After finishing the chores, Jello calmed down and called out his most trusted partner. "Oya, teleport me to the ultralight." "Understood, Jello." Oya's voice sounded in Jello's ears, a blue light flashed, and Jello returned to the ultralight that he had been away from for a long time. Stepping on the white metal floor, Zero smiled and walked to their studio with ease. There were many equipment most suitable for making ultra armor, and 4 sets of armors from Zoffy to Jack were stored there. Looking at the first generation armor, Zero asked Oya, how is the ultralight doing during my absence? During your absence, I did not completely stop the function, but followed your instructions to explore the technology hidden in the ultralight for you. Did you find anything good, Oya? Zero found a universal data cable in the equipment and asked Oya while looking for the interface. I found a formula called Aurora metal. Although this metal is not hard, it is very suitable for bearing your energy. If it is combined with your phantom particles, it can make the armor perform better than before. Oya reported one of the results. Aurora metal. Not bad. Jello praised the technology and connected his broken watch to the ultralight. Oya, receive this data and show me all the technologies you have compiled during this period. Okay. Oya responded and began to mobilize resources to receive the data from the broken watch. A light screen also appeared in front of Jello, showing all the technologies Oya had compiled during this period. The 4th generation anti-G-force module, good stuff, but it's useless to me. After returning, Jello's body was much stronger than before, and his resistance to certain negative effects was also much stronger. Ordinary humans need training to withstand 12 G-force, and 500 G-force is classified as death acceleration, but Jello can at least withstand 4-digit G-force at this time. However, the 4th generation anti-G-force module can be used in other places. Neural sensor operating system? This is interesting. Jello found another technology that looks quite interesting. This neural sensing operation technology is somewhat similar to the technology used to control giant mchoids in the movie Pacific Rim. It directly reads neural information to achieve synchronized activity between the armor and the body, which is much stronger than Zero's previous method of using the body to drive the armor. In a short period of time, Zero cannot maintain the Ultraman posture for a long time. To transform, he needs to burn some life. The more he burns, the stronger he is. The Ultra armor is a very conservative way to become stronger, and it can also allow Zero to adapt to some Ultraman abilities in advance. Therefore, the neural sensing operation system was included by Zero as a necessary technology in the next armor transformation plan. Hey, there is also a 7th generation thermal control module here, which is also a good thing. It can at least make the explosion power of Taro's armor 5 times stronger. Chapter Armor Upgrade Program on Earth, Ultralight. Jello was selecting technologies suitable for Ultra Armor. This nano-folding technology, among the dazzling array of technologies, Jello found the nanotechnology that he had not had time to learn. Unlike the telekinetic nano-folding technology given by Minhead, the nanotechnology of Ultralight is more excellent in terms of applicability, but the folding volume of telekinetic nano-folding technology will be smaller. Touching his chin, Jello made a decision: try to combine the advantages of the two technologies. As an adult, I want them all. After that, Jello selected several more technologies as reinforcement plans. Jello, I have entered all the data in that watch into the database, and the energy core is also being modified. Oya processes data very quickly. There are not many artificial intelligences on Earth that can surpass him. If he was not afraid of being exposed, Jello would have wanted to use Oya to mine Bitcoin. Okay. Jello's eyes lit up. Next, start strengthening the armor. As soon as the voice fell, Jello and Oya began the arm reinforcement work in full swing. Except for the Hunter Knight Sword armor that was temporarily sealed and the Zero armor that had never been used, the other 6 sets of armor needed to be strengthened. One day later, boom, the sky in Metropolis became very gloomy. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and there were faint flashes of lightning. The pedestrians on the street who did not bring umbrellas were speeding up their pace, fearing that they would become drowned rats if they returned late. Thunder continued to sound in the sky, and with the thunder that resounded throughout Metropolis, heavy rain poured down. In the rain curtain, a black car was like an extremely sharp blade, piercing the rainstorm and driving all the way to a mansion. The car finally stopped in front of the magnificent gate of the mansion. The young and beautiful office lady secretary got out of the car first to hold an umbrella for the man in the back seat. Pushing open the door that could resist RPG missiles, a touch of shiny luster appeared, and Lex Luthor, who was dressed in a straight suit, let his handmade calfskin shoes touch the ground. Mr. Lex. Ms. Maisie moved the umbrella over to protect Lex from the rain. Without saying a word, Lex stood under the umbrella naturally, and then walked towards the mansion that showed the huge wealth of the Luthor family. Boom, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky, and the lightning seemed to illuminate the whole world, and also reflected the Luthor family mansion at that moment. But it was obviously a magnificent mansion, but at that moment it seemed like a demon trying to crawl out from the depths of hell. The door that looked like a demon's mouth opened automatically for Lex. After letting Maisie stop at the door as usual, Lex stepped in. After absorbing the possible moisture on the mat at the door, Lex walked into the house. As soon as he entered the house, Lex saw the oil painting of the battle between angels and demons. This oil painting was very strange. It was obviously a painting that expressed justice, but it revealed a hint of weirdness. Taking off his black suit and hanging it on his arm, Lex prepared to go to the restaurant for dinner first. The restaurant used a lot of precious materials, and even the chairs were antiques dating back 500 years. However, in such an environment, Lex had to pull out a chair himself, sit at the long table with plates, and eat with sterling silver cutlery. At the top of the long table, Letitia Luthor, wearing a high-end red dress, sat there sipping red wine, and even said leisurely, "After the chirping and ignorant little bird is gone, the house is indeed safe." Listening to Letitia's words, Lex certainly understood what she was talking about. His expression did not change, and he said calmly, "But sometimes the little bird will return to the place where she has been, and even build a nest." The meaning of this sentence is very clear. Lex just wants to tell Letitia, even if you drive Lena away temporarily, what can you do? One day, she will come back. Then let the hunter kill the annoying little bird, so that she will never come back. Letitia said coldly. Lena is not Letitia's biological daughter, but the illegitimate daughter of Lex's father, Lionel Luthor. This makes Letitia hate Lena, not because she loves Lionel, but Lena has the right of inheritance. With Letitia's tolerance, she can only accept her own child in her to divide the Luthor family property, and the existence of Lena is undoubtedly the most annoying for her. Especially when Lena also has the right to inherit the property. That's not necessarily true. Lex smiled mysteriously, thinking that your methods are only used to fight for power and profit. Do you want to deal with that kind of guy? She is still 20,000 years early. After seeing Lex's smile, Letitia was a little unhappy, and questioned her own child. Do you think I can't find her if you send her outside? Lex, don't do whatever you want just because you are my son, okay? I'm done. Without waiting for Letitia to finish her words, Lex left the table first, leaving only Letitia, who was beginning to get angry. After Lex walked away, Letitia took out a satellite communicator and sent a message to the only contact. Killed her. Metropolis in the ultralight, Zero is testing the neural sensor operating system. This neural sensor system does not directly read Zero's neural current by piercing a fine needle into Zero's skin for control, but records all of Zero's neural fluctuations, making Zero the only user of this neural sensor operating system before it can resonate with the armor loaded with the neural sensor operating system. It is very similar to the mecha operating system in the movie Pacific Rim, but more efficient. The only problem is that if the armor is attacked, Zero will feel the same pain. Although he will not be really injured before the armor is destroyed, the pain is real. Neural synchronization rate 92.6%. OA reported Zero's synchronization rate with the neural sensor operating system at the moment. Very good. Jello, who was wearing a suit that looked like a motion capture suit, smiled slightly. Although he felt a little impatient about not being able to raise the synchronization rate to more than 95%, as long as the synchronization rate was stable at more than 80%, he could go into battle. The key point was that Jello felt that raising the synchronization rate to more than 95% was not a problem that could be solved by relying on technology, but something more metaphysical. Your synthetic radon is also ready. OA reported another good thing to Jello. Store more synthetic radon first. It will work better if you have more of it. Jello said as he took off the capture suit. At this time, OA reported something that made Jello unhappy. A large number of people who were disguised and carrying lethal weapons appeared outside the apartment where you live. Do you need armor for you? No, just send me back. Jello knew who those people were coming for, so he didn't plan to put on the armor, but just asked OA to send him back to the apartment. Okay. Then a blue light flashed, and Jello returned to the apartment. Chapter needs extra money. Earth Metropolis. Looking at the heavy rain outside the window, Lena's expression was solemn, and her slender fingers on the armrest of the wheelchair clenched involuntarily. Letitia. Lena gritted her teeth, her tone full of hatred. That woman not only drove her away to occupy more property, but also faked a car accident that caused her legs to be disabled. It was even more dangerous to send her to the hospital. Lena escaped at least 7 assassinations. After being discharged from the hospital, even if Lex placed her in a place far away from the Luthor family mansion, Letitia still did not let her go. Even without technological equipment, Lena can still find something wrong around her. Just like the residents of the opposite building have a normal schedule, but there are too many people taking turns to change shifts, and there are passers-by who look at a 302 from time to time. As long as that woman has done it, Lena can find all the clues. But today, Lena did not find any traces. Did Letitia give up? No, it's impossible. Lena knows Letitia very well. This vicious woman will not restrain her claws and fangs, but will only accumulate strength to hunt prey. Are you finally going to kill me? Lena's face turned pale, and her hands loosened weakly. Even if someone wanted to kill her, what could she do? She couldn't do anything. With that woman's power, no one would notice her death. Maybe the news would report that she was a poor person who died in the apartment, but that was all. Aren't there enough shootings in the lighthouse country? Without seeing it with her own eyes, Lena could imagine that one killer after another with lethal weapons approached her. They would use fully automatic rifles to blast open the door, and then shoot at her, and one flower after another of blood would splash from her body. Thinking of this, Lena closed her eyes, as if accepting her own death. Just give up like this. A voice suddenly appeared beside Lena's ear, but no matter how she looked, she couldn't find any figure. Just when Lena thought that she was hallucinating because of excessive tension, the voice rang again. No one can hurt you. Lena opened her mouth and asked, "Who are you?" ... But the voice didn't answer. At this time, in a 301, Jello stood in front of the window and looked at everything in the city, silently withdrawing the telepathy used to communicate with Lena. I should have discovered it earlier, Clegg. What are you thinking about? Jello curled his lips, and finally knew why Clegg let him live here. Maybe it was because of Lena. Maybe this little curly hair guy still has some connection with the dead bald guy. Jello felt like he was sold to the dead bald guy next door by his own brother. But the dead bald guy is so rich, he shouldn't mind paying some protection money, right? Jello thought about it and started to ask for compensation from the dead bald guy through Clegg. Jello didn't care about money, just give him more natural kryptonite, and metal, or some black technology to pack for himself. After listing the rewards on an A4 paper, Jello also logged all the killers who tried to approach the apartment building with telekinesis. With a casual thought, Jello froze them all in place. This group of people is almost half a company, right? They are really willing to spend money. With these advanced equipment, they can occupy a small town and become a local tyrant in the Middle East. After finding out the details of all the killers, Jello began to be secretly shocked. In terms of the hidden danger level, the Earth is actually much higher than the whole world, but Jello has the biggest backer on Earth, Superman Jello Kent. But Jello can't do things like slaughtering millions of aliens in the whole world on Earth. I'm a kind person and I can't bear to see you suffer, so, after saying this casually, Jello clenched his right fist. In an invisible place, all the killers were attacked by telekinesis, and half of their bones were crushed in an instant, and their internal organs were damaged. After doing all this, Jello took out his mobile phone from his pocket and called Clegg. After dialing, there was a long series of ringing tones. Why is it taking so long? Jello complained unhappily, and the call was connected. Jello. Clegg's low voice came from the other side of the phone. After the call was connected, Jello, whose abilities in all aspects had improved significantly, heard a panting sound in the background of the phone, and it was a woman's. Thinking of this, Jello understood instantly, and a somewhat obscene smile appeared on his face. Gossip is gossip, but business cannot be forgotten. After a slight cough, Jello said to Clegg, "Clegg, did you reach some kind of agreement with the dead bald guy to let me protect his sister?" "Yes." Clegg admitted it without hesitation. "Lex and I are still friends. He came to me to protect his sister, so I agreed." "So you let me be a bodyguard?" Jello questioned. "Don't you know that bodyguards need to be paid?" "But Lex and I are still friends, and aren't you and Lena classmates?" As soon as he finished speaking, Clegg covered his face, because he could guess what Jello would say. "Friends, classmates, you have to pay me more," Jello said without letting anyone refuse. "I can't work for nothing anyway. Ask that bald guy for some money. Don't let me suffer any loss. And you won't tell him who I am directly, right?" Hearing this, Clegg didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and said to Jello, "Then I'll let Lex take care of it. As for my identity, he can guess it even if I don't tell him." "Okay, go and have a rest. I'll tell you when there's news. I'm hanging up first." After saying that, Clegg hung up the phone as fast as he could, fearing that he would disturb the beautiful woman who was already sleeping beside him. On the other side of the phone, after a moment of silence, Jello smiled. It seems that his good brother is preparing to make him an uncle. The next day in the middle of the night, Lena fell asleep because she was so sleepy that she couldn't believe that she was still alive. She patted her cheeks and made sure that all this was not a dream, then she murmured, "I'm still alive. Is all this really not a dream?" Then, Lena tried to stand up from the wheelchair, but her thighs, where the nerves had been necrotic, did not respond at all. Only then did she know that she was not dreaming. After breathing a few breaths of the air that had survived the disaster, Lena felt very good. It's good to be alive. Lena showed a long-lost smile, and then she changed into her school uniform by herself. Over the past few days, she has become accustomed to this inconvenient life. After taking care of it, Lena controlled the smart wheelchair to leave a 302 and went to Oak Tree High School to complete her studies that she was unable to complete due to the accident. Of course, a guy who also suspended his studies due to an accident had to go with Lena. Promethean Metal. In the apartment building on Earth, the two people who happened to go out at the same time bumped into each other. Lena, who was in a good mood, was the first to greet Jello. "Good morning, Jello." "Good morning, Lena." After a polite nod, Jello walked ahead of Lena with his school bag on his back. With Jello's strength, he didn't need to protect Lena closely. When dealing with those ordinary human killers, ultra telekinesis could wipe out a large area. Jello even had to worry about whether he would kill them. However, the smart wheelchair was also a cutting-edge product of the Lex group. It was very fast. Even a normal person who walked on two legs might not be as fast as this wheelchair. There was only 20 to 30 meters between the two of them. As long as they accelerated, they could catch up. But Lena didn't do that. She was very smart and could more or less guess the secret of Jello, but she didn't want to go into it. The apartment was not far from Oak Tree High School. The two didn't need to take public transportation. It took about 20 minutes to get there. Lena was happy, but Letitia was very unhappy when she learned that Lena was not dead. In the study room of the Luther family's mansion, Letitia paced back and forth on the wooden floor, constantly muttering things like, "Why didn't that bitch die?" Letitia was like the evil stepmother in the fairy tale who sent pursuers to assassinate the beautiful princess, but according to the story, there must be a handsome prince to stop the evil stepmother and push her down from the Tower of Power, causing her to fall into an abyss of no return. Could it be that Lex hired a superpower to secretly protect the dog breed? Letitia guessed with a gloomy face. And a message appeared on her satellite communicator. "My men need treatment. This kind of thing is not in the contract. You need to be responsible." Letitia, the man's tone was firm, and he didn't care how powerful Letitia was. Disgusting brat. Letitia's old face twitched, but she didn't dare to provoke the guy casually, so she could only pinch her nose and pay the money. At this moment, in the top floor office of the Lex Group building, Lex was processing office emails. After responding to Wayne Group's intention to conduct in-depth cooperation, Lex noticed something else. In the special attention list, Lex noticed the letter from that person. "He actually came to me." Lex's face became playful, and then he clicked on the email. After reading the content, Lex laughed. "It's really interesting that you have a brother who is completely different from you, but you can't let that kid work for nothing. Just give him 500,000 yuan every month and give him 500 kilograms of Promethean metal, just as his salary." Lex Group is indeed rich and powerful. Lex gave a good salary at once, plus very precious Promethean metal. Promethean metal is a new metal discovered this year. It is very excellent and has energy absorption properties. After absorbing energy, the hardness of Promethean metal itself will be improved, but the weight will be reduced. It is a metal that some superpowers want to get very much. But there are very few people who can get Promethean metal. Apart from the Lex Group, the Wayne Group should have some in the entire Lighthouse country. Besides that, there are Star Labs and some private armed forces. After ordering his men to deliver the things to the designated location, Lex walked to a bookshelf. He stretched out his left hand and touched behind a book. A secret door opened in front of Lex. He stepped into it and the secret door closed. Inside the secret door was an elevator, carrying Lex down until he reached the bottom floor. The elevator door opened and Lex walked out. This is a secret laboratory buried deep underground. The walls are more than 30 meters thick and contain lead, which can isolate perspective eyes and other scanning technologies, and can block nuclear bomb explosions. It can be said to be the safest place in the entire metropolis. Walking in the corridor of the laboratory, Lex asked Dr. Carrion, the person in charge, "How is the progress?" "At present, our progress is very impressive. Although the intelligence of the B0 experiment subject is problematic, he is quite obedient and can meet expectations according to his performance. The B1 experiment subject is the most successful one. He has excellent intelligence, but his superpower development is a little weak. It may be that he has not had enough time to grow. Dr. Carrion rubbed his palms while reporting the progress of the plan to Lex. What about Plan W? Lex asked again. This, Dr. Carrion was speechless for a moment, and thought for a while before saying, since we lack the substance called spacium particles as a reference, the entire W plan has only two finished products. The first is the spacium missile. The power of this missile is far greater than that of other companies. As long as the mass production problem is solved, the military order will be ours. The second product is a battlesuit. With the combination of promethium metal, this battlesuit also has very powerful performance, but the cost is much higher than the spacium missile. Listening to Dr. Carrion's words, Lex touched his chin, thought for a while, and said, Dr. Carrion, do you think it's time to pull our experimental products out for actual combat testing? Actual combat test? Dr. Carrion asked. Otherwise, how can we sell the product at a good price, Dr. Carrion? Lex smiled. However, the B1 experiment subject, who should have been sleeping in the incubator, suddenly opened his eyes, looked at Lex, and fell into a deep sleep again. 5 p.m. After finishing his classes and signing up for the SAT, Jello finally returned to his apartment. He dropped his things, changed his clothes, and went out. Following the message Claire sent him, Jello finally arrived in front of a warehouse. After entering the warehouse, Jello walked to a container. This should be it. Jello used telekinesis to open the container, and then he saw a large box with a bank card on it. Walking forward, Jello took the bank card in his hand and looked at it. This should be a lot of money, right? Find an ATM to check. After confirming that there was no trick on the bank card, Jello opened the wooden box. There were many vertical containers in the box, and each container contained a piece of metal. What is this? Jello picked up a vertical container and looked at it. For a moment, he couldn't tell what kind of metal it was. So Jello had to check it. After confirming that there was no problem, he put these vertical containers away with his broken watch and planned to return to the ultralight to scan them carefully. Chapter 109 Release Notice. I've asked the editor, and it'll be on the shelves at 12 noon on Friday. I'm very grateful for everyone's support along the way. There will be 10 updates on November 18th and 19th, a total of 40,000 words. I also ask all readers to do me the favor of placing an initial subscription. Thank you very much. The initial subscription is very important to me. I beg you all to do me a favor. It's really, really important. Chapter Semi-Solid Projection, 1/10. On Earth, in the ultralight, Jello was using an external mechanical arm to take the unknown metal out of the vertical container. After carefully placing the metal on the scanning device, Jello asked Oil to start the scanner. Scanning started, initialization completed, progress 10%, 30%, 70%, 100%, scanning completed. After Oil finished scanning the mysterious metal, a holographic modeling projection appeared in front of Jello with various readings. After reading all the readings, Jello couldn't help but admire, it's really an excellent material. Extreme environment resistance, hardness, toughness, all these factors add up. Even in the universe it is very powerful, and it also has the characteristics of absorbing energy and then strengthening itself. Not bad, this bald guy is really willing to spend money. Jello got a full 500 kilograms of promethium metal, which is more than enough to build a set of armor. But Jello would not use it for such a luxurious thing. Maximizing the benefits of these promethium metals is what Jello should do. You can add some of this metal to the energy core and energy transmission system, or add it to the nano coating. Jello said as he looked at the holographic projection of promethium metal in front of him. As for the name of this metal, Jello felt like he had seen it in a comic. It seemed to be the material that made up the Deathstroke suit. It should be called promethium. After making up his mind, Jello ordered on Oya. Oya will first extract some samples for in-depth analysis, and test whether it can be imitated, and then test the compatibility of promethium metal with the energy system and nano coating. Okay, I will adjust the analysis and application of promethium metal to the first process, and the progress of the arm reinforcement plan will be changed to the second process. Oya responded. I will do the arm reinforcement plan myself, no need to slow down, prepare the tools for me. Jello said with his hands moving. Okay, I will prepare the tools for you. Oa responded, and then entered the analysis of Promethean metal. While Jello came to the studio, came to the US, -02 that was being modified, and the standards of the arm reinforcement plan emerged in his mind. This armor enhancement plan is designed with the concept of comprehensively improving armors from No. 1 to No. 6. Each armor will be equipped with a neural sensor operating system, nanotechnology, version 0.7 energy core and aurora alloy. Next, Promethean metal will be added, and some armors will also be added with specialized technology. The light weapon of Zophy's armor needs to be strengthened, the adaptability of the first generation armor needs to be improved, the structure of Seven's armor needs to be optimized again, Jack's armor will act the most nanotechnology, Ace's armor needs to modify the arrangement of the particle generator, and Taro's armor needs to be replaced with a more effective temperature control system. After setting up the enhancement plan for each set of armor, Zero began to design armor No. 7 and armor No. 8 at the same time. According to Zero's initial idea, armor No. 7 will be a melee combat body, and armor No. 8 will need to add auxiliary equipment to deal with various enemies that may appear next. After an unknown period of time, Zero increased the improvement progress of armor No. 2 to 90%, and I also presented Zero with the in-depth analysis data of Promethean metal. Putting down the work in his hands, Jello stroked his chin while looking at the data and said, "First, take 10 kilograms of Promethean metal and make it into powder, then mix it into the energy system and joints of the No. 2 armor, and add the rest to the nano coating. Okay, I'll do the next step for you, and the next armor improvement work can be handed over to me." Oya took the initiative to take the job. With such a powerful Oya as an assistant, Jello has more time to deal with other things. Stretching his muscles, Jello remembered a function on the ultralight, which was discovered by Oya in more than a year. After changing into a training suit, Jello came to the training ground and stretched out his hand to summon a holographic light screen. Only this one person has been sorted out. But it's enough. Jello looked at the holographic light screen and murmured, then stretched out his finger and tapped it. Drip with a crisp sound, a red figure slowly emerged in the training ground. This is a warrior with a red body, mysterious words on his lower abdomen, a pair of bracelets on his wrists, a golden armband on his left arm, a round-colored timer and a silver breastplate on his chest, prismatic eyes as sharp as a lion, and 3 sharp horns on his head like an eagle with wings spread. Although he is only 2 meters tall, Jello can still recognize that this is Leo Ultraman. Leo Ultraman is an Ultraman from another multiverse. After losing his hometown, he regards the Earth in that universe as his second home. He protects the Earth from the claws of aliens and monsters. He is a warrior who grew up in blood and fire. Leo himself is most famous for various fighting skills. After experiencing countless battles, Leo summarized his own fighting skills and slowly formed a boxing method, which is called cosmic boxing. I didn't expect to see an ultra warrior who is almost the same as me through the ultralight. Jello clenched his fists and his expression became impatient. If he hadn't known that this was just an illusion created by ultralight using semi-solid projection technology, Zero would have wanted to go up and ask Leo for his autograph. Semi-solid projection technology involves adding energy when creating a virtual projection, constraining the energy through a special force field, and then pouring in the combat data of the projection object to create a semi-solid object. However, this technology is not without its shortcomings. It can only be used on ultralight. If you leave ultralight, the semi-solid projection will disappear. It is probably impossible to use it for combat, but it can still be used for training. Looking at Leo, whose body was slowly solidifying, Zero slowly walked over and finally took a fighting stance in front of Leo. Receiving the battle signal, Leo's projection attacked Zero directly, and every move was aimed at blowing Zero's head off. Although the energy intensity of this Leo projection was the same as Zero's, the fighting skills and experience were completely different. Leo jumped on the spot, jumped over Zero's head, kicked Zero's shoulder with the help of the falling speed, and then landed, and then slashed Zero's neck with a hand knife. So fast. Jello's face changed drastically after being kicked. When he saw Leo's knife attack, he quickly raised his right hand and blocked it with his forearm. After the knife was blocked, Leo retreated without hesitation and jumped high after being hundreds of meters away from Jello. It's that move. Seeing Leo stretching his right leg in the air, Jello knew which move was coming. This fight made his blood boil. Although he knew that move, Jello still jumped up from the bottom and stretched out his right leg to kick Leo. Bang! Flush, 2/10 Earth Ultralight Training Ground A. Violent explosion occurred in the air above the training ground, and the flames enveloped Zero and Leo's projection. After the violent explosion, Zero landed on the ground fairly steadily, and Leo's projection slowly turned into light particles and disappeared. Taking a deep breath and looking at his still trembling legs, Zero slowly straightened up. Even if the energy intensity is set exactly the same as mine, it's only equal to Leo's projection. Sure enough, I'm still too weak. Although he was able to beat Leo's projection to disappear, Zero was not very happy. There was no other reason. Although Zero's basic qualities were stronger than Leo's under the same energy intensity, Zero could only be said to be 30% to 70% in terms of fighting. In terms of experience and skills, Zero was not as good as the Phantom created with Leo as a template. I have to adjust the fighting techniques I learned before that exchanged injuries for injuries. Facing Leo, a master in fighting techniques, Zero realized how stupid his previous fighting techniques that involved temporarily dislocating his arm were. A dislocated arm means that one arm cannot defend or attack, which means a flaw. During the training with Leo's projection, Jello was almost beaten by Leo's projection after using this move. Reflecting on his mistakes and modifying his fighting methods, Jello's unique cosmic boxing is slowly taking shape. After reflecting on his mistakes, Jello has almost recovered, and then he once again started the process of being beaten by Leo's projection. In one battle after another, Jello slowly got rid of the situation of being knocked down 7 times by Leo in 3 minutes. The battle time with Leo's projection is getting longer and longer, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. The longer the battle time, Jello's skills and experience have become more and more exquisite. Since then, Jello has been a bodyguard during the day and beaten on the ultralight at night. On the night of May 2, after Oyo completed the modification of all the armor, Jello temporarily freed himself from the destruction of Leo's projection. Arriving at the studio, Zero called out, "Oyo, how is the progress of armor enhancement? All armors from No. 1 to No. 6 have been enhanced." As Oyo responded, 6 armor pods descended from the ceiling. From left to right, they are Sophie armor, First Generation armor, 7 armor, Jack armor, Ace armor, and Taro armor. The changes in the 6 sets of armor are not that big, but the actual performance has been greatly improved. Taking the First Generation armor as an example, the basic performance has been improved by at least 57%, and it can adapt to more environments. Among the 6 sets of armor, the First Generation armor is the least outstanding, but it wins in terms of comprehensiveness. With the support of new technologies, the 4th armor Jack has become the armor with the biggest changes. In the past, due to Zero's own lack of ability and Oyo's failure to sort out nanotechnology, the size of Jack's armor became abnormally large. But with nanotechnology, everything has changed. Now, while maintaining its original performance, the Jack armor has become a size that is almost the same as the other 5 sets of armor. The weapon system has been integrated into a technology called the Spark system, which adds a layer of golden armor to the left arm armor of the Jack armor. However, fold all the armor except the Sophie armor and Jack armor into transformation devices. I want to put the armor into the broken watch. Zero raised the broken watch worn on his left arm and signaled Oyo to turn these ultra armors into transformation devices. After receiving Zero's order, Oyo began to fold the 4 sets of ultra armors, and finally turned into Beta Magic Wand, Ultra Glasses, Ultra Ring, and Ultra Badge. These 4 transformation devices were suspended in the armor cabin, quietly waiting for Zero to collect them. Then, the hatch opened, and Zero used his telekinesis to gather the 4 transformation devices, and they all flew in front of him and flew into the broken watch in an orderly manner. As for the Sophie armor and Jack armor that used the telekinetic transmission system, Zero personally came to the armored cabin with the hatch opened, and also used telekinesis to put the Sophie armor and Jack armor into the small broken watch. After all 6 sets of armor were put into the small broken watch, Zero smiled, and Oyo asked, "Excuse me, do you need to test the performance of the armor?" "You know me, Oyo." Zero smiled cunningly, and said to Oyo, "How is Dame ready?" Dame has always been in very good condition. After the technology is updated, even if you wear all the armor, Dame's maximum speed can reach 600 km per hour. Oyo answered clearly. As Zero's artificial intelligence, Oyo should know him too well. "Okay, lock a few targets for me. I'm going to tell those bastards that their Ultraman grandfather is back," Zero said eagerly. Looking for the target, there is a suspected bank robbery in the DC area, with multiple people committing the crime and high-tech weapons. The criminal data is being searched, and it is suspected to be the royal flush that appeared in Seaside City. After Oi's search, Oi really found such a criminal organization. Bring me their criminal data, Jello said as he changed into a black and blue combat uniform. After putting on the clothes, Jello was still wondering if Clark had gone crazy. He didn't even care about such an obvious crime. Really, I must ask him in person in the future. Putting on the black technology glasses that were once left on Earth and finally returned to his hands, Jello came to the mobile soldier suit eyeing dame that had been waiting for him for a long time. With a click of his right-hand finger on the glasses frame, a pair of novel-shaped myopic glasses turned into a pair of cycling sunglasses. Riding on the mobile soldier suit eyeing dame, Jello twisted the throttle, and the engine suddenly made a small but very pleasant sound, and then the wheels began to turn, leaving a tire mark on the ground of ultralight. It seems that you want to play more. Do you need me to teleport you to a place far away from Royal Flush so that you can race? Oi asked again. For some reason, Jello felt that Oi seemed to be worried about the floor. Jello pressed his body against the mobile suit eyeing dame and said, "No need, just send me to a place 500 meters away from the crime scene of Royal Flush. After I solve these idiots, I will go to have fun." Okay. Oi responded and then started the transmission system. A burst of blue light suddenly enveloped Jello, making his figure illusory. When Jello's figure solidified again, he appeared in the DC area of the metropolis riding the mobile suit eyeing dame. After taking a look at the navigation on the black technology sunglasses, Jello accelerated in the direction of Royal Flush. Update will start at 12 noon on the 18th and 19th, with 2 chapters updated each time, and every 2 hours. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Bureau, 3/10, Earth Metropolis, DC District at night. In a bank, a group of robbers in strange costumes are moving a large amount of property. They have put a lot of effort into this theft. First, they used high technology to create the illusion that the property had been moved in the evening, and bribed some bank employees and security personnel. Finally, each member has high-tech weapons, and the MCPD may not be able to defeat them. Hurry up, this is Metropolis, don't wake up that Boy Scout. A man dressed like the King of Spades in traditional playing cards reminded his accomplices. There is a lot of money in the banks of Metropolis, but whether they can rob it and whether they can spend it after robbing it is another question. Understood, boss. A man holding a spear and a mustache came back, and he dressed himself like the Jack of Spades. A man wearing an exoskeleton armor with the mark of the Ace of Spades on his body was moving the property silently. The other 2 members were women, one dressed like the Queen of Spades and the other dressed like the 10 of Spades. The 5 people gathered together to form the villain organization called Royal Flush. Their combat power was also relatively small. They belonged to the small organization that the Justice League used as soldiers to clean up. But I don't know what they were crazy about today. They actually came to Metropolis to steal the bank. Standing outside the bank, Jello used his perspective eyes to take in every move of these idiots. Is this the Royal Flush gang? Jello touched his chin and said while analyzing the combat power of Royal Flush. They are all ordinary human physiques. Most members are not even as good as athletes. However, their weapons have high technological content, a full set of single-soldier exoskeletons, holographic projection cames for confusing vision, laser prosthetic eyes, laser spears, shockwave bracelets and pistols, explosive cards, and flying vehicles in the shape of playing cards. TSK, if these things are given to trained people, they can fight the MCPD SWAT team, right? At this point, Jello began to wonder where these guys' weapons came from. A group of ordinary people can get a bunch of high-tech weapons that even the army may not have. Jello felt that he could see the problem when he was caught in the elevator door when he went out this morning. Who on earth would give a group of ordinary people high-tech weapons and let them go to the city where superheroes are most likely to stop them and steal a bank? Thinking about it, this group of guys called the Royal Flush Gang also aroused Jello's curiosity. In that case, I'll play with you, little cuties. After showing a playful smile on his face, Jello slowly sneaked into the darkness, ready to give the Royal Flush Gang some unexpected surprises. Inside the bank, the Royal Flush Gang had not yet realized the danger. Spade 10, who was holding 2 bags of banknotes, had just thrown the things onto the poker aircraft and was about to move other things when he found that a black shadow seemed to flash by. What is that? Spade 10 immediately became alert. As a former pilot, Spade 10 is definitely the most combat literate among the Royal Flush gang, and her vigilance naturally attracted the attention of others. Spade K walked up to her and asked, "Spade 10, what did you see?" "A black shadow." Spade 10 answered truthfully. "Humph, a shadow scared you like this?" Spade J waved his hand nonchalantly, saying, "This is not Gotham, why are you afraid of these things? You are such a coward." Spade A was honest and didn't want to get involved, so he just moved things silently. "We should." Spade Q wanted to say something, but before she finished speaking, she felt something hit the back of her head, and then she felt a strong sense of coma, and Jello, who was hiding in the dark, dragged her away. Jello, who was hiding in the dark, was very fast, and the other four didn't react before Spade Q was dragged away by Jello. After all the things were moved away, Spade J, one of the four, noticed that Spade Q was missing. "Where is Spade Q? Didn't she run away in fear?" Spade J mocked mercilessly. The Royal Flush Gang has not been in existence for a long time, and the relationship between the members is not good. Infighting is a very common thing. "Impossible," Spade King said calmly, "she doesn't dare to do that yet. Someone is coming. Get ready for battle." Upon hearing this, Spade Jack panicked. He was just a scumbag who cheated people out of their money. If he hadn't accidentally killed the victim, he would probably still be living off his wife. Asking him to fight a tough battle. How is that possible? Thinking of this, Spade Jack was the one who wanted to run away the most. Spade A didn't feel anything. He was a desperate criminal with lives on his hands. He was not afraid of fighting. Anyway, he would go to jail anyway, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Swoosh, a sound suddenly rang out in the darkness. In this dangerous situation, the senses of the four people were all strengthened. Spade King, Jack, and A looked over at the same time. Only Spade 10 was on guard in the other direction. But there was nothing in that direction. Spade King, Jack, and A were all fooled, while Spade 10 saw a black figure. The black figure punched Spade 10 inches the face, breaking her nose on the spot, and then made her unconscious. Then, the strong impact made Spade 10 fly backwards and land in the money bag. In an instant, the banknotes flew around like flowers scattered by the sky. This action also attracted the attention of the other three people. They turned around and saw the black figure who had not put away his fist. Spade J, who was the most scared, asked on the spot, "Who are you?" "It's just an Ultraman passing by." Jello raised his left arm in front of him, and then slowly started the small broken watch. The faint green light slightly illuminated Jello's face, which made him look even more terrifying. "Ultraman?" Spade K was puzzled for a moment, and then remembered the follower besides Superman, but hasn't this guy disappeared for a long time? Go to hell. Spade J quickly activated his laser iron laser spear, and 2 red lasers flew towards Zero, while Spade A also fired missiles from his exoskeleton armor, and 4 small missiles flew towards Zero's tail flames. Boom boom, the small missiles and lasers hit their enemies at the same time, and the violent impact caused the interior of this extremely high standard bank to vibrate, and smoke suddenly spread, and a lot of dust and debris fell from the ceiling. Among the only 3 people left, Spade J said happily, "Finally killed this annoying guy." However, the next moment, a cold mechanical sound rang out in the smoke. USO2 use Ultraman. Then, a white light appeared, and a silver-red figure slowly walked out of the smoke. Chapter Thread, 4/10 Earth Metropolis. In a bank, Zero, wearing the first-generation armor, slowly walked out of the smoke, and looked at Spade K, Spade A, and Spade J through his eyepiece with a milky white light. The laser and missile just now couldn't even knock 0.1% of the nano coating. As if a little tired, Zero yawned, stretched his waist, and asked the 3 people in front of him, "Are you having fun?" 3. If there is anything fun, take it out quickly, otherwise, I won't give you a chance. The huge disparity in combat power gave Zero enough confidence to be naughty. Even if these guys in front of him became 10 or 100 times stronger, Zero had enough confidence to knock them down. "Come together, otherwise we won't have a chance." Spade K glanced at the other 2 and said. Sweat slid down Spade J's face, and he answered with confidence, "You don't have to say it." Roar. As the most reckless one, Spade A directly increased the power of the exoskeleton armor to the highest, and then rushed towards Zero. Ace of Spades, wearing exoskeleton armor, was very fast. This kind of force was enough to knock a light armor vehicle away, but it was not enough to face Jello. When he came in front of Jello, Ace of Spades raised his fist and smashed it at Jello, but Jello just raised his right hand slightly to block Ace of Spades' attack. That's all the strength you have. Can't you even afford dinner? Jello mocked Ace of Spades. He only used a little bit of strength to make Ace of Spades unable to move. At this time, a loud shout suddenly came from behind Jello. Sure enough, you still have to look at me at the critical moment. It was Jello of Spades. His laser prosthetic iron laser spear shot out red lasers, and this time the lasers were thicker and more powerful. When two lasers shot at Jello's back armor, Jello said to Spade J, "You put the laser transmitter in your eye socket, aren't you afraid of burning your brain?" Seeing that Spade J and Spade A combined were just tickling Jello, Spade K couldn't sit still, but he definitely couldn't run away. The opponent was once Superman's follower, how could his speed be slower? Even if he turned on the aircraft and smoked, he couldn't run away. So, Spade K gritted his teeth and activated the mental power enhancement device on his body, and threw the enhanced mind control ability at Jello. As the boss of the Royal Flush Gang, Spade K is a superpower who has activated the mind control ability. It is because of this superpower that he can become the boss of these guys. But when Jello realized that Spade K was using the mind control ability on him, he even laughed directly. Glancing at Spade K, Jello said disdainfully, "Who are you controlling?" "No." Spade K was shocked. The next moment, Zero burst out his strength and lifted up Spade A, along with his exoskeleton armor. Spade A slowly left the ground, and Zero casually exerted force, and Spade A was thrown by Zero to Spade J, who was attacking him in front. Ah! Seeing Spade A flying towards him, Spade J was frightened and lost his mind on the spot, and his legs could not move. With a loud bang, Spade A and Spade J collided with each other, and the impact made both of them faint. Spade A, wearing exoskeleton armor, will definitely survive, but Spade J with a mortal body is not sure, because he will be the lightest wheelchair in his next life. After easily dealing with Spade A and Spade J, Zero looked at Spade K, and the invisible ultra telekinesis turned into a ring, locking Spade K tightly. Then, Jello came to Spade K, first broke his arm with a punch in front of him, then slapped him in the face to wake him up, and asked, "Tell me, who gave you the weapons and ordered you to steal things here?" "The weapons were stolen, and I recruited those people at random. I planned everything by myself." Spade K's lips kept trembling. Although he was afraid of Jello, he was more afraid of that terrible guy with all kinds of means, so he planned to take all the blame on himself. After all, these superheroes dare not kill people, right? There was a problem with this statement. How could Jello believe it? So Jello untied the telekinesis that bound Spade K, and Spade K only felt his body lighten, and then fell to the ground. Spade K was very puzzled. In the doubtful eyes of Spade K, Jello personally reached out and pinched Spade K's neck. According to the interrogation method Dick had taught him before, he lowered his voice and threatened, "You think I won't kill you, right? Joe Carney." "How do you know my name?" Spade K shouted in horror. "Of course I know. I also know that you have committed 12 murders, a total of 13 innocent lives have been killed by you, and there are also 27 thefts and 6 robberies. The FBI has wanted to catch you for a long time, Mr. Joe Carney." Jello recounted all the crimes that Spade K had let go. With OI's assistance, it was not difficult to copy a national criminal data from the FBI. After hearing this, Spade K was obviously panicked, but he was still not afraid of what Jello would do to him, and even shouted confidently, "Then you can only hand me over to the FBI. You are not a judge. You cannot sentence me arbitrarily." Ha 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 ha. Jello laughed, very happily. "Mr. Joe Carney, do you know that there are things in this world that are crueler than death?" "What are you talking about?" Spade K's face changed. "The metropolis is in Delaware, and there is no death penalty here, but what about Arizona, Georgia, Missouri, Florida? The states Jello mentioned currently have the death penalty. With Spade K's crime, if he is arrested in these states, he will definitely be sentenced to death." Spade K began to struggle. Without any hesitation, Jello continued his threat without disguising. "I can take you to those states in a very short time, but I will not protect you during the flight. You will suffer severe pain, your eyesight and hearing will be irreparably damaged, your brain will be deprived of oxygen, and your heart will not be able to bear the load. You will be tortured until the execution. Also, the people who support and employ you probably don't like you to be alive. If you can serve your sentence in a prison in Metropolis, he should be afraid of Superman's power and dare not touch you at will. But if it's somewhere else, I can't guarantee that you won't eat sprouted potatoes in prison. I'll tell you. After hearing this, Spade K finally gave in and was willing to tell what he knew. Claire's hesitation, 5/10. Please subscribe. In a bank in Metropolis, Jello let go of the hand holding Spade King, causing Spade King to fall heavily onto the marble floor. Ah! Spade K cried out in pain, can't you be gentle? Jello looked at him and slowly uttered a word, speak. Glancing at Jello with a guilty look, Spade K finally spoke his true feelings to Jello. Actually, I was caught by the FBI 3 months ago. They even handcuffed me. I was locked up in a dark room for several days. I can't remember the exact time. At first, I could still judge the time by the 3 meals, but then they started to disrupt the meal delivery time, and I couldn't tell a difference. When I was about to go crazy, they opened the door. 2 guys who looked like FBI took me to a room. There was delicious food on the table. Compared with the food I ate, it was simply a delicacy. When I finished eating the food, a man in a suit and leather shoes appeared in front of me. He said something to me, gave me the weapons, and asked me to work for him. Noticing that the second half of the story became blurry, Jello frowned and asked, "What are you hiding? Keep talking." Hearing this, Spade K became anxious. He cried and howled, "I swear I didn't lie to you. That guy may have the ability of mind control, and it's much stronger than me." He didn't say a few words, but I was confused. Mind control ability, related to the Lighthouse Country agent, high-tech weapons, suits, men, these elements combined together, Jello really thought of a person. A very damn guy. Although he was curious about why that guy controlled the Royal Flush Gang to steal things in a bank, but based on Jello's impression of that guy, all this was probably not a good thing. "I'm barely satisfied with your answer, Joe Carney." Jello said something that made Spade K feel relieved. Then, Jello prepared to leave the bank, but before leaving, Jello deliberately triggered the alarm. Given the importance of this bank, MCPD would arrive in no more than 3 minutes. Hearing the alarm, Spade K thought that what was coming was finally come in, and he was too lazy to run, so he sat on the ground obediently, waiting for the handcuffs to lock him up again. After doing all this, Jello hid far away, and did not leave the scene until the Royal Flush was taken away by the MCPD. Jello had taken back the first-generation armor, and wearing a black and blue combat uniform, Jello drove the mobile soldier suit Uindam on the streets of Metropolis. The strong wind swept across his cheeks, blowing all his hair backwards. The speed of Uindam was about to reach its limit, and there was a U-shaped bend in front. Finally, something fun. Jello smiled slightly, and then he showed his terrible operating power. The whole Uindam seemed to be attached to the ground. The shell of Uindam rubbed against the ground, rubbing out a lot of sparks. With an operation that a normal human could not achieve at a possible speed of 700 km per hour, Jello passed this U-shaped bend very easily. After passing the U-shaped bend, Jello made a very happy sound. Metropolis at night seemed to be regarded as a racetrack by Jello. Anyway, the sound of Uindam was not loud, and it would not disturb others' rest, so Jello drove faster and faster. It was not until someone appeared at the next bend that Jello hurriedly activated the emergency brake. After sliding for a distance, Jello drove the Uindam to stop in front of the man. Looking at the man's red cape, Jello asked, "Brother, why are you here?" "I have been watching what you just did." Claire looked at Jello with a complicated expression. This. Jello suddenly felt like a disobedient child who ran to a black internet cafe to surf the internet and was caught by his family on the spot. And next, there will be a family member who will say, "I think you were a game," to reprimand him. Claire sighed and said helplessly, "Let's talk somewhere else. It's not appropriate here. Follow me." After that, Claire flew away. The speed was not fast, and Jello driving the Uindam would definitely be able to keep up. Not long after, on the outskirts of Metropolis, on the cliff of a hill, after Jello caught up, Claire looked at Jello who was still sitting on Uindam and said, "Your current means are good. Batman is in need of a Robin recently. Do you want to apply? I can write you a letter of introduction." Ha ha ha. Jello laughed awkwardly twice, scratched the back of his head and replied, "Forget about being Robin for Batman." Claire looked at him dimly, imitating Jello's tone at the time and said, "But if it was some other place, I can't guarantee that you wouldn't eat sprouted potatoes in prison. Is that right? Who did you learn that from?" No way. Jello said awkwardly twice, and then quickly changed the subject. "Oh, by the way, Clegg, you came to see me so late, is there something wrong?" Glancing at Jello, Clegg clasped his arms across his chest, frowned unconsciously, and said worriedly, "The Fortress of Solitude received a signal from a Kryptonian spaceship." Upon hearing this, several names of Kryptonians suddenly appeared in Zero's mind. At this point in time in 2014, the Kryptonian who is most likely to come to Earth should be General Zod, right? Shouldn't it be a good thing to meet people of the same race? Zero smiled at Clegg without showing his worry about Zod. But not all Kryptonians are like our elf family. According to my father Jarrell, the spaceship may have been transformed from a prison where Kryptonian criminals were held. Will the Kryptonians on it be friendly to Earthlings? Clegg seemed very worried. He hoped to meet people of the same race, just like Zarel who was still in National City, but what if he met extremely vicious Kryptonian criminals? What if they wanted to harm their beloved second homeland? Zero, I want to ask you, what if you have people of the same race who want to come to Earth, but they have bad intentions? Clegg asked with a complicated expression. My people of the same race? This time it was Zero's turn to feel complicated. Ultraman is a creature with extremely high moral standards. How could he have bad intentions? However, there are also Ultramen who have fallen into evil. Thinking of this, Zero said to Clegg firmly, "I won't hesitate to fight them." "Won't hesitate?" Clegg hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "If they really can't turn back, then we can only lock them up in the Phantom Zone, right?" Chapter Potential Threats, 6/10 Earth, Metropolis Suburbs. On a moonlit night, Clegg stood on the edge of a cliff, looking up at the sky with a sad face. It seemed that across the endless starry sky, he could still see the spaceship heading towards the Earth. It carried the remaining fire of Krypton, and it might also be the calamity of the Earth. "Clegg, when I was in the universe, I heard such a rumor." Looking at Clegg who was struggling with how to treat his compatriots, Jello slightly revised what he knew and told Clegg. When Krypton was destroyed, there were aliens who saw Brainiac appear near Krypton. You should know Brainiac, right? "I know." Superman nodded and replied, "There is a record of Brainiac in the database of the Fortress of Solitude. He is an artificial intelligence with level 12 intelligence. He destroyed the civilization that created him and has been traveling in the universe since then. His greatest hobby is collecting lives from various civilizations." "Wait, what do you mean?" "There are still survivors on Krypton." Zero nodded affirmatively. "As far as I know, it is very likely not a rumor, but something that really happened. Brainiac will take away at least one city every time he takes action, which means that at least one city of Kryptonians survived." Clegg. Hearing this, Clegg's eyes became moist. This was probably the only good news he heard today. "Thank you, Zero." Clegg rubbed his eyes. Zero suggested, "If your people come, if they are friendly, we will take them to the Fortress of Solitude and let them slowly integrate into the Earth. If they are not friendly, then we will beat them up and then lock them up in the Phantom Zone." "How about it?" "The Phantom Zone?" "That's good too." Clegg nodded and agreed. "If there is a day when we will fight with our own kind, maybe locking them up in the Phantom Zone would be the best option." "My armor has been tested, Clegg. I'll go back first." Pushing the sunglasses on his face, Jello turned the throttle, and the Dame made a slight roar. "You go back first." Clegg replied. "Take care." Leaving a meaningful word, Jello drove the Dame away. After playing in the suburbs for a while, Jello asked Oya to teleport him and the Dame back. As soon as he returned to the ultralight, Jello took off his black technology sunglasses, left the Dame, and said to Oya, "Where is the kryptonite I used to defeat the Metal Man before? I'll teleport it to you right away." Without any doubt, Oya directly sent the kryptonite the size of an adult's heart to Jello. The kryptonite was placed in a square container by Oya, glowing with a faint green light. People who didn't know might think it was some kind of precious gem. But kryptonite can actually kill people. Lex Luthor, who lost half his life to kryptonite in a certain timeline, has a lot to say about this. "Make kryptonite weapons, Oya, and prepare for battle." Zero ordered. After receiving the order, Oya started the processing equipment and asked, "Excuse me, are you preparing to go tour with your brother?" This made Zero silent. After a while of silence, he said to Oya, "No, Oya, there are other Kryptonians, to be precise, hostile Kryptonians. At present, the combat armor is relatively saturated. First complete the auxiliary amino aid, and when necessary, you can suspend the production of amino 7. Okay. Oa replied. After Zero changed out of his combat uniform, he said to Oa, "One more thing, Oa, help me prepare high-concentration synthetic radon interferometers in the training ground, and continue to make Leo projections until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I have my SAT exam tomorrow." "Okay, the training ground is ready, you can go anytime." Oa was very efficient and got everything done in a few seconds. Then, Zero walked into the training ground, which was already filled with defalaterase and high-concentration synthetic radon. It goes without saying what synthetic radon can do for Zero. It can be converted into alpha energy and can also provide a strengthening effect for Zero's Earth-human genetic factors. And defalaterase, artificial solar radiation rays, come from plasma sparks. That's right, the energy source of ultralight is plasma sparks, which are plasma sparks that can make the humans who originally lived in the land of light evolve into Ultraman. The ultralight has at least several hundred plasma sparks, but even the current Oa has only tapped half of the ultralight's capabilities. However, no matter how many plasma sparks there are, it is impossible to strengthen Zero's ultra factor to the normal Ultraman posture in a short period of time. The reason is simple. If you want to use plasma sparks to evolve humans into Ultraman in a short period of time, it must be that when the plasma spark tower is just activated, the human genetic factor has not absorbed any energy, and the pseudo-endless energy plasma sparks are directly irradiated, plus the probability of winning a million lottery, it can evolve into Ultraman. And Zero, he does not meet any of the requirements. Therefore, Zero can only choose to accumulate little by little and evolve slowly. Standing in a room filled with high concentrations of synthetic radon into Faraday light, Zero feels very comfortable. He uses ultra energy absorption and conversion as much as possible to convert synthetic radon into Faraday light into alpha energy. In front of Zero, Leo's projection slowly emerged and then attacked Zero. After so many days of practice, Jello has become familiar with Leo's projection, which has the same energy intensity as him, and the attack rhythm has become less fierce in his eyes. 5 minutes later, Jello is still not at a disadvantage. After adjusting his breathing, Jello fought with Leo's projection again. May 3rd, 7 a.m. After escaping the torture of Leo's projection, Jello returned to the apartment, changed his clothes, stuffed all the necessary admission tickets and pens into his bag, and went to the SAT examination room. Jello was with Lina Luthor. The two entered the SAT examination room together. For these two cheaters, the SAT was nothing, but the long time made them a little tormented. From entering the examination room at 7:30 to the official start of the exam at 9 o'clock, and then ending at 1:30 the afternoon, Jello and Lina were finally freed from the clutches of the SAT. Stretching lazily out of habit, Jello celebrated a little, and Lina drove her smart wheelchair to Jello's side at this time and asked, "Jello, are you in the mood for afternoon tea with me?" "Afternoon tea? I don't have it." "Never mind, can we drink while playing chess?" Jello shook his head and was about to refuse, but he remembered halfway that he was now half a bodyguard, and he killed 60 assassins in seconds with his telekinesis last time. If the old woman wanted to send someone again, it would be a superhuman assassin. For the sake of salary, it is better to be closer to Lina sometimes. Some superpowers on Earth still have to be guarded against. Moreover, Jello had another idea in his mind. Chapter Chess and Advice, 7/10. Outside the SAT exam room, Jello gladly accepted Lina's invitation. Of course, he was definitely not worried that some bald guy would deduct his salary. You agreed very quickly this time. Lina smiled lightly, then pointed in a direction and said, "Come with me, I know a very quiet place." "Okay, you'll lead the way." Jello nodded and agreed. Earth is a place where dragons and crouching tigers are truly hidden. Even the strong men of the multiverse level can be found on Earth. Jello didn't dare to guarantee that he could rank in the first echelon on Earth. After walking through a bunch of bends and turns, the bustling metropolis seemed to be gradually moving away from him, and his ears gradually became quiet. Looking up at the somewhat shabby sign, Lina said to Jello, "This is it." What appeared in front of Jello was a coffee shop with some years of history. The sign at the door was hand-driven in chalk, and the weathered wooden door added a sense of the times to this coffee shop. Driving the smart wheelchair to the door with ease, Lina raised her arm and pushed the door open with some difficulty. Ding dong. When Lina pushed the wooden door, the sound of bells rang. "It's you, Lina, what would you like to drink this time?" A white-haired old man who was still wiping the glass greeted Lina, and he also noticed Jello's presence. "You brought a friend to take care of my business this time?" Ha ha ha. The white-haired old man didn't look much younger than old Jonathan, and he looked very energetic. Looking at the environment in the store, Jello didn't find anyone else except the old man. It seemed that the old man should be running the business alone. Just a classmate, not very familiar. Jello shrugged and added, however, after finishing the biggest thing, it's not bad to do a little bit of things that you don't have time to do normally. Ha ha ha, young people nowadays are really interesting. The old man laughed. He hadn't seen Jello as young as him for a long time. He put the white glass aside and said to Jello, "Young man, what do you want to drink? Are there any wines? Give me a glass of vodka with ice, lime juice, and ginger beer." Jello said to the old man after thinking of a recipe. "Wine." The old man frowned upon hearing this, and then rejected Jello without hesitation. "You are not yet 21 years old, right?" "No, I will not sell wine to minors." "Okay, just give me a lad," Jello said helplessly. Lena followed, same. "Okay, wait a moment, 2 laters will be here soon." The old man responded and started to work. 2 laters would take time, so Lena took Jello to the depths of the cafe. Along the way, Jello saw many products that did not belong to the 21st century. The most advanced one should be the radio that can receive modern radio channels, and what caught his attention the most was an old-fashioned phonograph. This old-fashioned phonograph was well maintained and looked like it should be 100 years old. To this day, it is still playing music. The metal needle scratched across the vinyl record, and a quiet and gentle song echoed throughout the cafe, making people feel comfortable. However, Jello did not have much musical knowledge and could not tell which song it was. After the two of them sat down at a mahogany round table with a chess set on it, Lena said to Jello, "Try out Quintet, second movement, is chamber music composed by Schubert in the summer of 1819. Does it sound good?" Although he heard Lena's introduction, he still felt it was impressive, so he just nodded slightly and replied, "It's very quiet and very comfortable to listen to." "That's good." Lena reached out and picked up a black chess piece, fiddled with it, and said, "Let's play a game. It's been a long time since I played chess with someone of equal skill." "Then I'll go first," Jello replied casually, then raised a white chess piece and launched an attack. After taking a look at the position of the chess piece, Lena judged that it was a similar operation of giving up a pawn. She wondered, "This is not like you, Jello." Jello said calmly, "People change, Lena, and it has been more than a year since we last played chess." "You're right." Lena smiled lightly, raised the chess piece and aimed Jello's white chess piece, and said, "Since you put the chess piece in front of me, I will not be polite." Mutually. As he spoke, Jello let a chess piece eat Lena's black chess piece. "I remember it was a draw last time," Lena said while playing chess. Jello asked, "Do you want to win this time?" "Win?" "It's really a distant word for me," Lena whispered. After saying this, Lena's movements slowed down a lot. Jello, who knew something, saw that Lena was a little unhappy, so he taunted her mercilessly. "You're giving up to life. Are the people of the Luther family giving up so quickly? You know, your brother has lost to Superman countless times, but he is still full of fighting spirit. You are so much worse than him." Hearing this, Lena paused, and after making a move, she laughed at herself. "I don't want to admit defeat, but what chips do I have? I'm just an illegitimate daughter who is paralyzed and kicked out of the house." When she said the latter part, Lena's tone became louder, but Jello laughed at her in return. "Tsk, coward." The word cowardly deeply penetrated Lena's heart, causing her to make a very unwise move and glared at Jello. I. What? Looking at Lena, who was unable to speak for a long time, Jello poured a basin of cold water on her again, and then raised the chess piece without hesitation and took down Lena's black king. "General, you'll lose." The game ended, and there was no draw like the one that happened more than a year ago. Jello defeated Lena easily with an almost one-sided crushing. Looking at Lena, who was still angry but could do nothing, Jello leaned back casually on the chair and said to Lena, "You were afraid that you will lose everything after giving it a try, am I right?" "No, it's not like that." Lena raised her voice, trying to cover up her true thoughts. "Are you still quibbling?" Jello lost some of his patience and said the last sentence to Lena. "Have you thought carefully about counterattack? Sometimes, it is not enough to just escape. Even if the gladiators in ancient Rome enjoyed all the glory and wealth and immersed themselves in a beautiful country, it could not change the fact that they had to entertain the nobles in the most primitive way. You have to face the facts, Lena Luthor. This is my last advice to you. Chapter US, -080 AD, 8/10 Earth metropolis. In an old coffee shop, Jello was stimulating Lina, trying to arouse the desire deep in her heart. After saying these words, Jello was about to get up and leave, but the old man just brought up 2 cups of latte. 2 cups of latte, please enjoy. The old man put the 2 white porcelain cups of latte on the table and glanced at Lina, who seemed a little aggrieved, and said to the 2, "Don't make friends unhappy, young people." Lina wiped away her tears and said to the old man as if she had made a decision, "There is nothing unpleasant, boss. I just talked about some past events and was moved by the scene, but now it's okay." Glancing at Lina, the old man said intriguingly, "It's good to be young, but don't leave any regret when you go. I won't bother you for now." After saying that, the old man left the 2 people's side without looking back. After the old man left, Jello asked Lina, "Have you figured it out and are you ready to fight back?" After taking a deep breath to calm her brain, Lina replied, "Of course, I want to take back everything I lost, but I still need to plan, and I have too few chips." While talking, Lina turned her eyes to Jello. Although the time was very short, just a little while, how could she hide it from Jello? "Do you want me to help you?" Jello smiled playfully. "It's not impossible, but, do you have anything that can impress me?" "After success, I cannot take everything. Everything is yours." Lina clenched her fists firmly, and veins popped on her fair skin. "You're determined, but I am not interested in money." Jello looked at Lina with satisfaction and said, "Money, we can split it 50-50. What I need is all kinds of high tech, and, okay. I promise you everything." Without any hesitation, and even without giving Jello a chance to finish his words, Lina agreed directly. Hearing Lina's answer, Jello held his head with the back of his right hand and joked, "You should think about the first step first. Your monthly living expenses should not be much, right? You need at least some startup funds to take action, right? Go back and think about it first, otherwise I'm too lazy to help you. Let's go back to the apartment with you." "Okay," Lina said with relief. After finishing the latte, the 2 left the cafe and returned to their apartment. After returning, Lina locked herself in the room and began to plan for the future. Jello returned to the ultralight and planned to complete the No.8 armor with auxiliary capabilities first. As soon as Jello came back, Oe asked, "Jello, where were you just now?" Obviously, Oe was paying attention to Jello. "I'm cheering up a frustrated girl, Oe, can't you see it?" Jello said as he came to the workbench. "But you really don't have the ultra spirit like that," Oe complained. "Ultra spirit?" Upon hearing this, Zero's playfulness came up. He deliberately hunched his back and said to Oe in the tone of an Ultraman who had mind, "What a bullshit ultra spirit, it was lost 20,000 years ago." On Oe, who knew what Zero was doing, crashed. After more than 10 seconds, Oe slowly said, "As long as you are happy." "That's not what I meant, Oe." Zero put away his playfulness and became serious. "There are many technologies on the ultralight, but the waters of this world are very deep. Although the Earth can't even navigate the solar system, some technologies are enough to blow the Earth up hundreds of times." Zero, who knew the amount of black technology in the DC universe, didn't dare to guarantee that the ultralight was enough. There were many alien black technologies hidden in the Red Room of the Star Laboratory, and the particle accelerator in the central city could enhance superpowers. And as far as Zero knew, the particle accelerator would be operational on October 7 this year. At the time, he would definitely have to get an identity to go there to obtain superpowers and make use of everything he could get. In addition to these, there are also things like Amazuka, Metal Team, Robot Rep Tornado, Blue Beetle, Firestorm Matrix, Mother Box. These black technologies, whether from Earth or aliens, Zero wants to get them. And to get close to these black technologies, a reliable and logical identity is a must. But Zero is not good at these, so he thought of Lena Luthor. In a certain timeline, Lex Luthor was arrested, and Lena was able to bring the Lex group, whose stock price had been falling, back to life, which was enough to prove that she had good means. So Zero was willing to approach her, and there was absolutely no other emotion. "So you want to get some technology through Lena Luthor?" Oe asked in confusion. Zero snapped his fingers and replied, "You're right, Oe, she is very smart, and not as paranoid as her bald brother. She is very suitable to be a partner." After a moment of silence, Oe replied, "As long as you are happy." After the chat, Zero set his sights on the armor No.8 that was about to be completed. At this time, the No.8 armor had been mostly completed, with only the final energy core left to be installed. After Oi adjusted it slightly with the mechanical arm, he installed the energy core for the No. 8 armor. After the last step, the No. 8 armor was folded into a transformation device and slowly floated in front of Jello. This is a short stick that looks like a small rocket, with red and silver stripes and a crystal-like tip. According to the design, this transformation device can also be installed on the muzzle of an energy weapon to fire more powerful energy bombs, and even have a defensive function. He raised the weapon that he had long named the electric light stick, and white light accompanied by colorful arcs enveloped Jello. After a moment, the light and arcs all dissipated, and Jello put on a new set of armor. Unlike the No. 1 to No. 7 armors that were all developed towards combat capabilities, this armor numbered US 080 and codenamed Eddie is a real auxiliary body. In terms of appearance, the Eddie armor seems to be a continuation of the first generation armor. The armor is mainly silver red, and the head is different. The optical eyepieces are in yellow, and the red crown on the top of the head is actually a telekinesis amplifier. The Eddie armor doesn't have many weapons. In addition to the light blade and light beam that continue the first generation of armor, there is only a comprehensive weapon module on the abdomen armor called Ultra Buckle by Zero. The rest can only rely on Zero's own fighting ability. In terms of auxiliary capabilities, the Eddie armor with Shakesium particles added to the energy core has become more diverse. There are telekinesis amplification modules, healing beams, traction beams, calming beams, and defensive positions. Compared with other particles, the destructive power of Shakesium particles is not strong, and it is comparable to Sparium particles, but the auxiliary ability is excellent, and it is very suitable to use Shakesium particles to make auxiliary equipment. Chapter Plan 9/10 Earth Metropolis. In the ultralight, Jello, who changed into the Eddie armor, felt that all his senses became very clear. This was because of the telekinetic amplifier. With the amplifier, Jello's telekinetic power instantly became several times stronger. At this moment, he felt that he had done a lot of things. However, there were no patients on the ultralight, and Jello had no way to test the performance of those auxiliary equipment. The mobility is very good, a very comprehensive armor. After moving his whole body, Jello had a general feeling about the performance of the Eddie armor. After testing the performance, Jello put away the Eddie armor and put the electric stick into the broken watch. Continue the manufacture of the No. 7 armor, Oya. After giving an order, Jello went to the training ground and continued to be destroyed by Leo's projection. About 3 days later, since the set was over, it was also considered to have completed the instructions and wishes of old Jonathan, Jello took a long vacation. Anyway, his credits and hours had almost been completed, so he could just go and get a diploma. So, Zero hid in ultralight every day, either supplementing his knowledge to work hard to become a scientist in the future, or practicing with Leo's projection. During this period, Oi also completed the No. 7 armor. The No. 7 armor is numbered US-07 liters and codenamed Leo. The whole armor has cut off a lot of long-range weapons, but added a system evolved from the extreme limit release of Taro's armor, the Burning Lion system, plus a set of efficient learning machines. The Burning Lion system is derived from extreme limit release and can convert the heat energy generated by the armor into kinetic energy. Combined with the high output thrusters on the legs of the Leo armor and the accelerated thrusters on the wrists, the Leo armor has become a set of melee armor. This way, there will be 8 sets of armor, and there will be 10 sets of armor soon. By then, I can call myself 010. Watching the transformation device named Lion's Eye slowly float into the broken watch, Zero smiled with great satisfaction. 8 sets of armor cover all the battle situations that need to be dealt with at present. In order to develop new armor, Jello must collect data for a period of time, otherwise it will be difficult to start the next armor design. In addition, Jello's obsession with the perfect next generation of armor has temporarily postponed the next armor development plan, but various technical research and development have not stopped. But the next superpowered criminals in Metropolis will definitely not have an easy time, Jello is very sure of this. Jello, your partner is here to see you. Oi's voice sounded, waking Jello, who was still looking at the broken watch. Lina. Jello suddenly said, teleport me back to the apartment. Okay. Oi responded, and then sent Jello to a 301. Knock knock knock. A crisp knock on the door sounded, and Jello, who returned to a 301, went forward to open the door, and Lina, sitting in a wheelchair, came into his sight. Lina smiled lightly and said, "Good morning, Jello. Have you thought of a plan?" Jello asked Lina. "Yeah." Lina nodded, and Jello saw this and motioned Lina to come in and talk slowly. After Lena drove the smart wheelchair into the house, Jello closed all the windows and curtains and took other safety measures. The whole house suddenly became much darker. Knowing that Jello was guarding against Letitia's surveillance, Lena did not stop him. Otherwise, she would definitely be suspicious of something if a man and a woman were alone in the same room. Jello leaned against the wall and asked Lena, "Tell me, what are your plans now? I have some evidence of Letitia's crime, but she has a strong legal team and we can't bring her down, so I plan to start a company, expand my influence step by step, and then slowly reduce her wins, so that she will lose everything before taking action." Lena told Jello about her plan. After listening to it all patiently, Jello said to Lena, "It's a good idea. Do you have any specific operations? I can come up with a promising technology as the company's first product. I'm optimistic about the Quinn Group in terms of manufacturing, and I can entrust the Wayne Group to the sales." Lena continued. "Quinn? Wayne?" Jello hesitated and asked, "Tell me, why did you look for them? Both groups have had friction with the Lex Group. The Wayne Group is better. The Quinn Group had expressed hostility to the Lex Group." By giving the reasons, Lena dispelled some of Jello's doubts. This can avoid some situations. Jello nodded, and then said after approving Lena's plan, "But what about your initial capital? The money you and I have is not enough to support a company." Hearing this, Lena smiled, and then took out a poster. After Jello took the poster, Lena continued, "We have to thank a certain dude from the Wayne Group. He has been more and more passionate about extreme sports in the past 2 years, even more fanatical than the company that sells energy drinks, so there is this competition. Unlimited motorcycle road race." Jello looked at the poster and read it carefully. The threshold of this competition is very low. As long as you have a motorcycle, you can participate, but the most important thing about this competition is that it is unlimited. What is unlimited? That is, there is no grouping of age, gender, weight, and other information, and there are no major restrictions on participating vehicles. Participants are even allowed to use violent means in the competition. Isn't this just violent motorcycles? And he brings a lot of people to play together. This playboy is really cruel. Do rich people play so well? Jello complained. And there will be a lot of people participating, because the prize money is as high as 50 million yuan. Lena continued to talk about the matter. And 50 million yuan is a figure after tax. Jello, think about how many people will participate in this competition. At the time, as long as you don't have a criminal record, you can participate in this competition. After hearing this, Jello wanted to bring out the Iron Dame to participate. After all, they are both two wheels, and there is not much difference. They can only fire spacium light bullets and 32-barreled missiles, and can also knock over a tank formation. But he certainly couldn't do that. Jello didn't want to be targeted by the old bat, so he said to Lena, "What about the motorcycle? Although I got a driver's license at the age of 16, and I can also solve the problem of vehicle maintenance, I don't have money to buy a car. Where are you going to get me one? Don't worry about the car. Give me 2 days and I will give you a motorcycle for the competition." Lena said affirmatively. "That's good, I'll wait for your good news." Jello nodded. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 10. Through from Zod, 10/10, Earth Metropolis. 2 days passed quickly. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lena took Jello to an underground garage. The lights in the cool underground garage were dim. After walking through the empty parking space, the two came to an independent garage. Lena took out the remote control to open the shutter door. With the sound of clang clang, the shutter door kept rising. After it was big enough to accommodate the two of them, Lena drove the smart wheelchair into the garage and turned on the lights. After the lights came on, a motorcycle covered by a black cloth came into Jello's eyes. As Lena signaled him to lift it, Jello pulled off the black cloth, and a silver motorcycle appeared in front of him. This motorcycle is very streamlined. The entire shell of the car is made of high-strength carbon fiber and sprayed with silver metallic paint. There are dark green lines on the edge of the shell, and part of the black engine is exposed. Are you satisfied? I have tried my best to maximize the performance of this car. Lena asked Jello. In terms of performance alone, the silver road racing car in front of him is definitely not as good as Iron Dame, but the handsomeness is comparable. Satisfied? Jello replied, and then asked, but by the way, does it have a name? Name? Do you care about this? Lena was a little puzzled, but she still shook her head honestly, indicating that she didn't. Then call it Shadow Moon, give me the key. Jello said with some evil taste. In response, Jello said that he didn't call this motorcycle the Wheel of Fortune, which was his greatest restraint. Hearing this, Lena took out the key and threw it directly to Jello. Taking the key, she started the motorcycle. As soon as she turned the handle, the engine immediately made a very pleasant sound. Lena also said to Jello at this time, the maximum speed of this motorcycle can reach 350 km per hour, and the displacement, no need to say. Before Lena finished speaking, Jello interrupted her and said, I will win the unlimited motorcycle race. After all, it's not just a competition of driving skills. After hearing this, Lena's face changed. Although she couldn't be sure, she was sure that Jello had superpowers and had the responsibility to protect her to a certain extent. For Jello, the most important thing about this unlimited motorcycle road race is not the motorcycle, but the unlimitedness. The time for the race should be coming soon, right? Jello asked casually. Lena replied, in 3 days, if there are no superpower criminals causing trouble, we will participate in the race as a team. Okay, then I'll go back first. Jello nodded and put away the keys. 3 days later, the race was held as scheduled. Many spectators came to the scene. A road in Metropolis was specially blocked as the competition venue. And the winner of this race was also obvious. Swoosh like the wind, Jello, who was driving Shadow Moon, took off his helmet after stopping. His hair, which had been suppressed for a long time, fluttered in the wind. He didn't even have a drop of sweat. This level of competition didn't tire Jello at all. He easily became the champion of the first race. Due to the confidentiality system of the organizer Wayne Group, everyone only knew that the race would be held in 3 cities, and the first stop was Metropolis. After Jello, there were more and more contestants crossing the finish line, but compared with Jello's performance, they were far behind. In the end, Jello stood in the champion's position. A hot girl hung a medal for him, and a gold-plated trophy was also stuffed into his hand. He even had the pleasure of opening champagne. After the award ceremony, it was the media interview session. Jello deliberately avoided this session, but a black-haired female photographer rushed to him. After snapping a few photos, Jello said with some displeasure, "Who are you? Which newspaper are you from? Can't you see that I don't want to take pictures? Donna Troy, personal photographer, don't you have any words of thanks for winning the award?" Donna asked with a digital camera in her hand. Donna Troy. Jello felt that this name was familiar, as if it was a certain generation of Wonder Girl, but he was too lazy to care about it now and just wanted to leave quickly. God knows how much money the Wayne Group spent on publicity for this competition. Jello only noticed that there were many paparazzi along the way, and finally he could only run into a bar in a panic. The bar was very dirty, with vomit and alcohol all over the floor. The smell was so bad that Jello's throat was sore. There was also a TV playing R18 inches the store. At this time, the bearded bartender said, "Kid, do you want a bottle of baby yogurt?" The guests in the bar laughed. Only the young man sitting in front of the bar, who seemed to be drinking alone, threw a few bills in the bartender's face and said in a hoarse voice, "Give him a bottle of whiskey, real." The bartender picked up the money in embarrassment, and then took out a whole bottle of unopened whiskey from the counter. Money is the most important thing in the world. It's just making money, not shabby. With this idea, the bartender suppressed his anger. "Come and have a drink with me," the young man said without looking back. Jello would not refuse someone to invite him to drink. He came to the young man and sat on the chair. The young man also smashed the bottle mouth at this time, and the glass shards splashed everywhere, and then poured the wine into 2 glasses. There are glass shards mixed in this wine. Jello was speechless, and his desire in his heart suddenly subsided a lot. "What? Don't want to drink it? What a waste." While complaining about Jello's waste, the young man drank the whiskey with glass shards in it in one gulp, and did not forget to say something after drinking it. "Ha ha ha, so cool." And the fat guy changed the TV channel to channel 78, "I want to watch the news." But here, the bartender wanted to refute, but the young man directly pulled out a pistol, pointed it at the bartender, and threatened, "Die or change the channel, choose." Gulm swallowed his saliva, and the bartender immediately took out the remote control to change the channel for the young man. Channel 78 was broadcasting the news, and the news about the chairman of the Wayne Group, the world-famous playboy, and the billionaire Bruce Wayne. Same as before, Bruce. The young man smiled. Looking at the young man's hunched back, Jello found that he seemed to recognize the identity of the man in front of him. Okay, kid, I don't know your name yet, tell me. The young man looked at Jello and asked. Knowing that his true identity could not be exposed, Jello just randomly picked a few words from his memory to form a name. Shizuke Gagalas. What a strange name, but I like you. Are you interested in hanging out with me? The young man laughed. No, I have other things to do, see you again in the future. As soon as Jello finished speaking, he was about to leave, but the TV suddenly made a noise that attracted him. The noise gradually became clearer and finally turned into a sentence full of threatening meaning. My name is Druzot. I come from a planet far away from you. I have come to you across the star sea. There is a citizen of my star on your planet. I ask you to hand him over. For some reason, he is hiding his identity on your planet. He is very likely to integrate into your life. He looks the same as you, but he is definitely not like you. For those who know his whereabouts, I can only say that the fate of your planet is in your own hands. Next, for Kal-El, surrender to us within 24 hours, otherwise this planet will be destroyed. General Zod. This guy is finally here. Before Zod finished speaking, Jello stood up from his chair and said to the young man who was probably Jason Todd, thank you for buying me a drink. Then he ran out in a hurry. Interesting little guy. The young man drank all the whiskey in one gulp before leaving the bar and going to where he was going. Chapter Lois Lane, 1/10, Earth Metropolis. General Zod directly invaded the network of most areas of the Earth and conveyed the threat to the ears of people all over the world, causing everyone to fall into an unprecedented panic. Countless people were worried, afraid, and terrified, and riots broke out on the Earth at this time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, some in IG resumed their old business on the streets. Places with good public security were relatively calm, while places with poor public security saw looting and smashing. Unruly people were making trouble everywhere, and only the citizens of Metropolis and Gotham seemed relatively calm at this time. At this time, Jello was too lazy to look for Clerk slowly, so he used his not-so-skilled telepathy to find Clerk in the vast crowd. Clerk. Where are you? Jello used telepathy to connect himself and Clerk. Outside Metropolis, Clerk hesitated for a moment, and then replied, Jello. How do you know this? Clerk felt familiar with Jello's telepathy, so Clerk did not stop Jello from establishing a telepathic connection, but Clerk remembered that Jello did not have this ability before. My superpowers have just been awakened. Jello answered casually, and then asked, Clerk, where are you? I'll be there soon. No need, Jello, I know you're good to me, but I just want to find a place to be quiet now, you know, help me take care of Lois, okay? Through telepathy, Jello could feel that Clerk's mental fluctuations were a bit low and messy. But everyone is now an adult, with the ability to think independently, and Jello believes in Clerk, Superman, and the son of Krypton. Okay, I'll go to Lois. Jello replied. Thank you, brother. Clerk's impetuous mind felt a little comforted. Jello complained about Clerk's awkwardness. You're still talking to me. You'd better find a way to calm down, Clerk. Okay. Then, Jello cut off the telepathy between the two, and Jello ran towards the direction of the Daily Planet. Just after seeing the iconic golden globe of the Daily Planet, Jello found Lois Lane in the crowd, and at the same time, there were a group of men in suits who had just got off the SUV. These men in suits were definitely agents of the Lighthouse Country. Jello rushed out of the crowd as soon as he accelerated, and grabbed Louise's wrist before the men in suits locked onto her. Louise. Jello called her softly, and Louise noticed Jello. Louise was surprised and said, Are you Clerk's brother? SHH. After making a gesture to silence her, Jello took Lois Lane and quietly ran out of the crowd. With the blessing of superpowers, those agents who thought Lois was just an ordinary person and didn't bring any black technology weapons were caught empty-handed. Jello ran all the way with Lois, and finally returned to a 301 with his future sister-in-law, slammed the door, and Lois, who was extremely important to Clerk, was temporarily safe. Someone wanted to arrest me just now. Right. Because of the reports I wrote for Superman? Louis asked. Over the years, Lois has long developed a sense of vigilance. Although she can't stop her suicidal behavior, her thinking is definitely much better than that of ordinary people. Yeah. Jello nodded, and then said, "Those guys probably think you are related to Superman, and Superman is the biggest suspect at the moment. It just so happens that you have written a report about Superman. Now there are many people outside looking for you, Sister Lois. Anyway, there will be a family in the future, so Jello called her intimately. Claire asked you to protect me, right?" Lois felt warm in her heart and asked Jello a question that she knew the answer to. "Yes." Jello replied, "Metropolis may become a battlefield next, and I will take you away." "What about Clark?" Lois' eyes struggled. She reached out and grabbed Jello's shoulder, trying to ask something from Jello's mouth. Jello knew Lois and was well aware of the reputation of the reporter hero who was courting death. Instead of not saying anything and letting her courting death, it is better to tell her the truth openly. "Clark is very rational. I know what he will do next. On one side is his compatriot and on the other is his beloved second hometown. He will choose to negotiate first and then take action." Jello had almost forgotten the plot a long time ago, and now he was completely relying on his feelings for Claire to guess. Louise couldn't bear the thought of her lover having to face everything alone. She paced around the room, muttering to herself, "We have to help Clark. We can't let him bear all this alone." Seeing Louise worried about Clark, Jello knew it would turn out like this, but he couldn't let Louise take risks. Otherwise, he would be ready to enter the Injustice League plot. "But for Clark, your safety is the biggest help to him," Jello advised kindly. Louise knew it very well, but Clark meant a lot to her. "But there is still time, Sister Louise. If Clark needs us to help him with his ability, won't he tell us?" Facing Louise, who still didn't want to give up, Jello directly pulled out Clark's meaning, which also had some effect. At least Louise didn't seem so anxious. Looking at Louise, who was finally willing to sit on the sofa, Jello began to contact Oya. "Oya, add Lois Lane to the sequence of the transmission system, and send her to the ultralight when necessary. Also, Lena Luthor, she is part of my plan, understand?" "Okay. Is there anything else you need?" Oya operated for a while, added Lois Lane and Lena Luthor to the transmission list, and then asked Zero for the next instruction. Without thinking, Zero asked directly, "The Sophie armor can now connect up to 87 particle storage tanks, right?" "Yes," Oya replied. "Get ready now, and prepare the kryptonite equipment for me. I want to give those Kryptonians a hard time." After saying what he needed to say to Oya, Zero said hello to Lois Lane again, and then came to the door of a 302 and knocked on it. Knock knock knock. After 3 rhythmic knocks, Zero heard the sound of the smart wheelchair starting, followed by the click sound of turning the door handle. "Zero?" The door opened, and in front of Zero was Lena Luthor, who was sitting in a wheelchair with a puzzled look on her face. Looking at Lena, Zero kindly reminded her, "Leave Metropolis quickly and seek refuge in a safe place. Those aliens are not kidding." Zinkaboran surrenders himself, 2/10 at the entrance of a 302, Metropolis, Earth. Jello was urging Lena to take shelter quickly, otherwise, if Metropolis became a battlefield in 24 hours, she would not be able to escape. "I will take shelter." Lena nodded, then showed a helpless look, and said, "But now half of the Lighthouse country is in riots." After hearing what Lena said, Jello's face became a little ugly. With Lena's current appearance, I'm afraid that before General Zod arrives, she will be shot to death by a robber who jumped out of nowhere, and go down to accompany the Wayne couple. Like a flash of inspiration, an idea appeared in Jello's mind, so he spoke to Lena. "I have a way to ensure your safety, Lena." Lena asked in confusion, "What is it?" "That is, this." Before he finished speaking, Jello flashed behind Lena and knocked her unconscious with a snap. This time he also brought a little ultra-telekinesis, ensuring that she could sleep for 2 or 3 days, and let her stay in the ultralight for a while before the matter was resolved. However, teleport her to the ultralight, and then find a comfortable room for her to sleep, and get her some nutrient solution and sleeping gas. After telling Oya what he needed to do, Jello returned to a 301. In a 302, a blue light flashed, and Lena disappeared. In a 301, Jello accompanied Louise through several hours of agony. At the same time, in the basement of the Lex Group building, in the most confidential laboratory, a sentence was repeatedly played. "My name is Drozod, I come from a planet far away from you, the next words are for Kal-El, surrender to us within 24 hours, otherwise this planet will be destroyed." After repeating this sentence in his ear for more than a dozen times, Lex pressed the pause button. With a sneer of disdain on his face, Lex mercilessly mocked Zod. "Stupid idiot, it seems that he really doesn't know Clark's strength. It seems that not all Kryptonians are wise. He is such a reckless man. Have you given enough evaluation, Lex? A hoarse voice sounded, and the speaker was a mysterious man who was leaning against the wall and had a very strong figure. He was wearing a very high-tech combat uniform, with 2 dark blue lights on his face, and there were bat ears on both sides of his helmet. He looked like Batman's #1 fan. Hearing the mysterious man speak, Lex, who was sitting on the swivel chair, turned the chair and looked at the somewhat impatient mysterious man, and said, "Of course, I won't forget the deal. Come with me, I'll show you 2 good things." After that, Lex stood up from the chair and took the mysterious man to a laboratory that only he and Dr. Carrion could enter. 2 culture chambers were lying quietly in this laboratory. Experimental subject B0 and experimental subject B1 closed their eyes tightly. The culture chamber would provide them with enough nutrition and the yellow solar radiation needed to become stronger, so that they could become stronger even when they were sleeping. Lex introduced the mysterious man. B0 and B1 are the best test subjects at present. I believe they can bring you surprises. ... The mysterious man did not speak. He did not really want to take these 2 test subjects with him to carry out the plan, but for some reason, he had to come to Lex and bring 2 test subjects with missing data. If they drag their feet, I will destroy them, the mysterious man said, his tone full of murderous intent. Hearing this, Lex raised his eyebrows and asked, "Are you questioning my wisdom? But you can rest assured that the test data of B0 and B1 are very good and will never affect your army. It's better to be the same as you said," the mysterious man said dimly, prepared to send those 2 things to Gotham, Lex. After a mysterious smile, Lex said to the mysterious man, "Of course, my ally." Huh. The mysterious man suddenly snorted coldly, and then strode out of the laboratory, as if he didn't care about B0 and B1. After the mysterious man left, Lex returned to the swivel chair. The large screen on the wall in the distance played some images that could not be seen through formal channels. Through the drone screen, Lex saw the red and blue figure slowly flying towards the Lighthouse Army base. "Have you made a choice, Clerk?" Lex murmured to himself. Outside the army base, as Claire gradually approached, the entire base became nervous from top to bottom, fearing that Superman would have some bad intentions towards them. However, Claire was too lazy to play with these guys at this time, because he was telepathically communicating with Jello. "Are you going to surrender?" Jello, who was far away in Metropolis, asked Claire telepathically. Claire answered with ambiguous words, "That's my compatriot, there is no need, I won't take the initiative to attack." "Then are you ready?" Jello asked again. "I asked Cousin Kara to go to my parents' place. If you don't want to stay in Metropolis, you can go there." Knowing his identity for so many years, Claire had long known from Jor-El's Phantom that he had the Kryptonian origin life code. The life code contains the genetic information of all Kryptonians. With the help of the baby-raising machine, another Krypton can be created. When the life code is inserted into the body of a Kryptonian who is born completely by natural childbirth, that Kryptonian can have the possibility of the entire Kryptonian. TA can be a warrior, a judge, a leader, as long as it has appeared in the Kryptonians, he can reproduce it. In their 301 apartment, Jello glanced at Lois, who seemed to have guessed something, and said to Claire, "Okay, but your girlfriend is a little restless now. I will surrender next, and then I will ask that only Lois can see me, you just bring her to see me," Claire said as if he had expected it. Then, Claire slowly floated to the ground, walked into the army base, stretched out his hands, and quietly waited for the handcuffs to come to him. In the Metropolis, Jello cut off the telepathy, then looked at Louise and said to his future sister-in-law, "Get ready to go, Sister Louise, my brother wants to see us, but the situation is not that good yet." "Really?" Hearing this, Louise's heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally let go a little. Nodding, Jello said to Louise, "I guess someone will come to see you soon." Ding ding ding. As she spoke, the phone in Louise's pocket rang. As soon as she picked up the phone, she was greeted with a question. "Louise, where are you?" "Martian Manhunter, 3/10 Earth Metropolis in Jello's apartment." As soon as Louise picked up the phone, she heard the voice she didn't want to hear, the voice from her father Sam Lane. "That alien wants to see you, Louise, come here." General Sam's tone was very unfriendly, as if he didn't treat Louise as his own daughter. More like a prop that only obeyed his orders. Although she was very unhappy with the tone of this dead old man, it seemed that it was more important to meet Claire now, otherwise Louise would have to say something sarcastic to this old man. "Okay, father, just send someone to pick me and my bodyguard up at my place." Louise was too lazy to talk to the old man. After replying to Sam, she was too lazy to say anything else. Hearing this, old Sam even mocked, "Bodyguard? Can you afford a bodyguard for your job as a reporter who doesn't make much money?" Beep. The response to old Sam was that the phone was disconnected. "Let's go, Jello." Looking at Jello, who was ready for battle, Louise asked, "Do you want me to wait for you to change armor?" "Let's go, Sister Louise." Raising his left arm, Jello began to operate the small broken watch. It was not until the holographic projection stopped on the ultra glasses that Jello slapped the dial with his powerful veto palm. The ultra glasses appeared in front of Jello, and then Jello put them on his face with telekinesis. Then a strong light appeared in the room, which made Louise unable to open her eyes. After the strong light gradually dissipated, Louise slowly opened her eyes and complained, "This light is more dazzling than the higher beam of my car. Who made my enemies have good vision?" Jello, who changed into the 7 armor, stretched out his hand to Louise and said, "Come on, Sister Louise, hold on to me." Hearing this, Louise held Jello's hand, and then activated the transmission system and teleported the two to the downstairs of Louise's apartment. Since Zero was still wearing the 7 armor, this caused a commotion among the citizens who were watching the show. "It's Ultraman. Isn't he next to the female reporter who likes to report on Superman? How come they are together?" Too lazy to listen to the rumors of these citizens, Zero and Louise waited for old Sam to send someone to find them. After a while, an armored vehicle stopped in front of the two. The door opened, and a soldier with a standard rifle in his hand came down and said to Louise, "Come with us, Ms. Louise. I'm not the only guest," Louise said with a smile. "What?" The soldier hesitated. Taking advantage of this gap, Zero got on the back seat of the armored vehicle directly, and even commented on the cushion. "The cushion is a bit hard, aren't you worried about spinal disease?" Seeing Zero wearing the 7 armor, the soldier suddenly felt like he had 10,000 swear words. Although the superiors only said that they would take Lois Lane back, Jello insisted on going with them. What could he do to stop them? Besides, everyone knew that Superman and Ultraman had a good relationship. What if Superman knew about this and didn't even give him a chance to speak? After thinking about it, the soldier thought it would be better to pretend not to see it. At worst, he would be retired and go back to his hometown to find a job. "Please, Miss Lois." Pretending that Jello didn't exist, the soldier invited Lois to get on the car. After all the passengers were ready, the driver started the armored car and drove Jello and Lois all the way to a certain army base. This process took about an hour or two. After a bumpy journey, Jello and Lois arrived at their destination, the Lighthouse Army Base. General Sam Lane had been waiting here for a long time. And Sam Lane was not the only one waiting for Lois and Jello here. In addition to him, there were 2 black people, a man and a woman, waiting. The female black man was a big fat, with slightly curly hair, and dressed like an office worker. The male black man looked like a tough soldier, with a crew cut, a black combat uniform, and a pistol on his waist. If Jello guessed correctly, the female black man should be Amanda Waller of the Eye Society, and the male black man could be Hank Henshaw of the DEO, or the Marsman Hunter of the Future Justice League. However, even now, Jello can't be sure whether the universe he is in is the new 52 or the old 52, or a new DC multiverse. After taking a look at Jello, who was following Louise, General Sam said to Louise, "Is this the bodyguard you mentioned? A kid who likes to wear exoskeleton armor? I don't know anything else, but I know that this kid is much braver than you at some times, General Ryan." Without Jello saying anything, Louise said to General Sam directly and mercilessly. After being told by Louise, old Sam's face darkened, and he didn't even want to say anything. At this time, Amanda Waller on the side spoke to Louise. "Superman only wants to see you, Ms. Louise, and he has been waiting for you for a long time." Maybe Amanda Waller doesn't know how to behave, but her attitude is indeed much better than that of old Sam. Louise nodded and replied, "Take me to see him." "Come with me." Amanda Waller walked towards the base with an expressionless face, and Louise followed. When Jello was about to follow, old Sam Lane deliberately stood in front of Jello and said, "Boy, you can't go in yet." Well, it seems that you're very unfriendly to me, old man," Jello said sarcastically. Then he looked around, and then said, "But even if all the firepower here is added together, it can't scratch off my paint." Looking at old Sam, Hank Henshaw knew what this guy was thinking. He shook his head silently, walked up to Jello and said, "I'm sorry, Ultraman, but you really can't follow in." Taking this opportunity, Hank Henshaw established a mental connection between himself and Jello, enabling them to communicate mentally. Listen kid, I know you have a good relationship with Superman, but today's incident is very serious, and Superman doesn't want you to get involved. Calm down, okay? Who are you? Jello said subconsciously. I'm the same as you and Clark. My name is Ron, a Martian. I can understand your feelings. Martian Manhunter was still trying to persuade him, fearing that the young man would be angered by Sam Lane, an old man with a more or less sick head, and then do something stupid. Chapter Kryptonian Enemies, 4/10 Earth, a certain army base of the Lighthouse Country. Don't worry, my friend from Mars, I won't do anything stupid. After replying to the Martian Manhunter, Zero walked around and went straight to Sam Lane. He did nothing but stared at Sam Lane. Since the optical eyepieces of all Ultra armor can prevent the enemy from capturing Zero's sight, old Sam didn't know what Zero was going to do. But old Sam, the stubborn old man, didn't dare to show any fear or excitement in front of Zero, fearing that he would fall into the trap of this kid, so he began to think about whether Zero was planning something. As it turned out, old Sam thought too much. Zero was now discussing with Oya what kind of kryptonite weapon he should use when the Kryptonians came. But old Sam didn't know that. He still thought Zero was competing with him in wits and courage, and he kept staring at Zero, unwilling to give in, until his eyes were almost dry. This situation continued until Clark and Lois walked out of the base. Since the Martian Manhunter, the top master of psychic abilities, was there, Zero did not show off his telepathy that he had just learned, but instead started a conversation with Clark openly. Have you thought about it? There are some things that I need to face alone. Clark nodded and said calmly, you go back first, and leave the matter to me. Zero replied, okay, I'll leave first, take care of yourself. As Clark's brother, Zero is one of the only 3 people in the world who knows Clark's true strength. If Clark really wants to do it, only Kryptonians with billions of people are qualified to fight Clark, of course, only once. Not every Kryptonian has the same terrible potential as Clark, even Kara, who is far better than Clark in energy absorption efficiency. Take care of them. Clark said to Zero with ultra-high-frequency sound waves. Except for the 2 brothers, even the Martian Manhunter could not hear this sentence. Without answering Clark, Zero turned around, overcame gravity with a slight jump, and then left everyone's sight in full view. After flying into the stratosphere, Jello asked Oya to take him back to the town of Smallville. A flash of blue light passed by, and Jello returned to the farmhouse. However, his sudden appearance attracted the attention of 3 people, especially the blonde girl with red eyes. Jello. Although he was wearing armor, old Jonathan still recognized Jello, and he quickly signaled the blonde girl beside him not to move. I remember, you are Clark's brother. The hot eyes in the blonde girl's eyes gradually dissipated. With the sound of click, the helmet of the 7 armor was put away, and Jello, who revealed his true face, nodded to the cousin he had only met once, and said, it's me. We met once more than a year ago. Counting it, I should be able to call you Cousin Kara, right? The blonde girl, Clark's cousin, Kara Zor-El, asked immediately when she saw Jello. What about Carl? Did he really go to find Zod? Yes. Jello replied. When Kara thought of the conflict between the Zod family and their El family, she couldn't help but frown, and her delicate doll-like face showed a sad expression. Kara is really too naive, how can he trust Zod? Kara is different from Clark. Before the destruction of Krypton, Kara lived on Krypton for more than 10 years. Because of her parents' influence, she has a lot of opinions about Zod. Clark is not as simple as you think. Jello shook his head and said, if he really trusts Zod to only meet him and not do anything else, he won't let us stay here. The code of life exists in Clark's cells. If Zod doesn't find that code of life on Clark, he will send his men to 2 places. One is the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic, and the other is naturally the place where the spacecraft landed that year, the town of Smallville. Jello doesn't have to worry about the Fortress of Solitude. If Zod dares to go, then Jor-El will take the Annihilator to tell Zod what a scientist is, so that Zod can recall the shame of the year. In addition, there is also Krypton. The Fortress of Solitude is simply impregnable. The situation in Smallville was difficult. Even if the Kents were taken away, Clark was not sure whether Zod would attack other residents of the town, so Clark arranged for Jello and Kara to stay here. Oya, have you detected a Kryptonian spaceship entering the Earth? Jello contacted on Oya. The other party has landed in the territory of the Lighthouse Country. Mr. Clark was taken on the spaceship by a female Kryptonian, and Ms. Louise was taken with him. Oya passed this message to Jello. After learning this news, Jello said to Kara, Cousin Kara, get ready to fight. Zod's men are coming. After that, the helmet of the 7 armor was closed, and Jello activated the small broken watch with his mind, and the X-rifle and the cluster ray appeared on him. This fully armed appearance scared Martha. Although I don't know why Jello understood so well, Kara is willing to believe her brother. The very rustic coat was taken off, revealing the S-shaped family emblem of the L family. The somewhat rustic girl Kara Dams disappeared, and the future Supergirl Kara's L appeared. The red and blue uniform was the same as Clark's, but Kara's was obviously designed for women. The red short skirt matched with red boots. The absolute domain was looming, very attractive. But Jello didn't feel anything at all. He couldn't have that kind of feeling for his sister in a certain sense. About 30 seconds later, Jello and Kara heard the sound of a spaceship in the distance. After looking at each other, Jello immediately told the old couple who had raised him for more than 10 years, "Don't come out no matter what happens. Let Kara and I handle everything, okay?" The two old people have seen a lot of storms over the years, and they know that staying still is the best help at this time. After telling his parents, Jello and Kara walked out of the door together. Buzz, a strong wind blew, and a small Kryptonian spaceship slowly landed on the lawn of the Kent family. The hatch opened, and 3 figures in black armor walked out from it. Carrying a terrible sense of oppression, the Kryptonian general in heavy black armor led 2 adjutants towards Jello and Kara. Zod didn't know Zero, but he saw the L family crest on Kara, so he said to her, "Girl of the L family, hand over the Codex of Life, and you will have a place on the future New Krypton." Impossible. Kara clenched her fists, her eyes determined. Zod shook his head, signaled the 2 lieutenants to take action, and said, "Stupid, teach her a lesson, Fira, Eek." Zankara Jello vs. Fira Eek, 5/10. In the small town of Smallville, Kansas, Earth, a battle is taking place in front of the Kent family's cabin. Receiving orders from General Zod, a female lieutenant wearing light armor and a black cape behind her and a male lieutenant Eek, whose armor is thicker than Zod's, attack Kara at the same time. They are as fast as mortar shells and focus all their attention on Kara. And Zero is ignored by the 2 of them. But soon, Zero will tell these 2 Kryptonian warriors the price of ignoring him. When Eek and Fira rushed towards Kara at the same time, 2 silver streaks cut through the sky and cut Eek and Fira at the same time. The sword energy formed by the convergence of a large amount of particle energy is not weak. Even if Fira and Eek dodge in time, a deep sword mark is left on their armor, and sparks keep flashing on the sword mark, and they are about to be completely destroyed. Zero, holding a spacium sword in each hand, moved his neck, and the V-shaped optical eyepiece lit up. The spacium sword in his right hand pointed at the 2 Kryptonian warriors who had stabilized their center of gravity, and said in a low voice, "Don't forget me, 2 guests. Leave him to me, and the little girl from the L family will be left to you." He whispered to Eek beside him, and Fira flew towards Zero. After capturing Fira's figure, Zero used his mind to put away the spacium sword, and then aimed at Fira with the X-rifle. The emerald green bullets containing aiming particles flew towards Fira in a rain of bullets. Not knowing the power of this green bullet, Fira did not dare to take it head-on. After adjusting her center of gravity, she flew towards the Kent family's farmland. Since Zod was still there, Zero had to be on guard against him, and long-range weapons might be useless against Kryptonians, so he put away the cluster ray and X-rifle, and instead took the ice axe hidden in the thigh armor as a weapon. Meanwhile, Kara's battle with Kryptonian warrior Eiko became fierce. Both of them were Kryptonians, and each of their attacks was as powerful as an earthquake. If it weren't for the biological force field when they moved, they would have set off a tornado by now. Kara, who also adjusted her genes based on the warrior template, of course knew that she couldn't fight here, so she moved the battlefield. Her heat vision shot out and sent the Kryptonian warrior Eiko flying hundreds of meters away. Then she flew up and started a melee with Eiko. Even if Kara's experience was poor, she had absorbed the Yellow Sun for several years more than Eiko, and her lower limit was much stronger than Eiko. However, Eiko had fought with Zod for many years and was also an opponent that could not be underestimated, especially after he reacted. Eiko dodged Kara's big straight punch sideways, and the huge Eiko grabbed Kara's cloak directly, swung it several times, and then threw Kara out. Kara didn't fly out dozens of meters, but she reacted with her strong physical fitness. Knowing that she was no match for the opponent in close combat, she immediately used her freezing breath to suppress the opponent. A large amount of air was compressed into the lungs, and then exhaled, taking away the heat in the air, making the temperature of the surrounding large area extremely low. It was a bit difficult for Eiko to face the freezing breath for the first time. Although he had been exposed to the sun, he did not show any signs of awakening these superpowers. Kara suppressed Ika with her superpowers, but the battle between Jello and Fira was still difficult to determine the winner. Fira's fighting skills were definitely not worse than General Zod, and were even 3 points more exquisite. The ice axe collided with the Kryptonian dagger, creating a series of sparks, and this was just one of the collisions. Within 10 seconds, the ice axe and the Kryptonian dagger collided thousands of times, and the sparks created when the weapons collided had not completely disappeared. From a distance, it looked like a burning tree. Fira narrowly dodged an ice axe by bending down, and the next second, Jello's Emerald beam shot towards her. Zzz, the Emerald beam shot out from the laser on the forehead, directly knocking Fira back, even breaking her armor. Good opportunity. Jello thought secretly in his heart. As long as he could break through the opponent's protective armor, he could kill the opponent with kryptonite weapons. But General Zod would not sit idly by and watch all this happen. If Fira and Egg's speed were mortar shells, then General Zod was an intercontinental missile. Whether in terms of speed or range, the difference was as big as 2 weapons, no, even 2 dimensions. To deal with Jello, General Zod didn't even throw a punch. He just hit him with his shoulder, and Jello flew backwards, completely smashing his own barn and falling into the straw pile. Fira, your strength is not strong enough. Zod glanced at Fira and said. Fira saluted with a Kryptonian military salute and replied, I will strengthen the training, General. Hearing that his subordinates were so loyal, Zod was also very satisfied. He was about to say something when he noticed a dazzling white light coming from the ruins of the smashed barn, followed by a mechanical sound. Change US, -0 forge jack. The next second, telekinesis lifted up all the wooden boards, and Zero, wearing the 2.0 jack armor, walked out of the ruins step by step. The left arm covered with golden armor flashed, and a shield and a spear appeared in his hand. Zero lowered his center of gravity, pointed his spear at Fira and Zod, and said to the 2 powerful enemies, second round, Kryptonians. To deal with 2 enemies at the same time, what suit of armor is more suitable than a jack armor? Looking at Jello, who had changed into a new set of armor, General Zod looked at Jello with a slightly higher opinion, and then said with a little doubt, you're probably not a human from Earth, right? With my power, even if you are wearing armor with a high technological content, based on my observation of the human beings on Earth during this period of time, you should be dead. Do you want to tell me which planet you are from? Maybe I have attacked your home planet. It was obviously a provocation and psychological tactics, and Jello could certainly hear it. Moreover, Jello guessed that Zod might have arrived in the solar system a long time ago, but he took his men to absorb the sun for a period of time, and only threatened directly after confirming the strength of the Earth. You deserve to know. You dog. Too lazy to talk to Zod, Jello opened his mouth with a swear word, and then raised his spear and attacked Fira and Zod. Hearing this, Zod's face under the mask paused. Although he didn't know what Jello said, it was definitely not a good thing. HMPH, your little brat with a sharp tongue. Fira, come with me. Zod gave the order and attacked Jello with Fira. Just in time, Jello thought to himself and activated a module on the armor with his mind, Radon life support system. A large amount of high concentration radon flowed into Jello's body through the armor, providing him with an endless supply of power. The next second, Zod and Fira attacked at the same time. Jello raised his shield to block Zod's fist, and the spear in his right hand pushed Fira back. Then the power of his left arm burst out and pushed Zod back. Is the power stronger? Fira asked in confusion. But Jello's power should be about the same as hers, how could it be so much stronger? Without giving Fira and Zod time to think, a red and blue figure cut through the sky and fell heavily to the ground with anger. King versus King, General versus General, 6/10 Earth, Kansas spoon. With a loud bang, a figure fell heavily to the ground. His landing stirred up a lot of dust, causing a large area of the surrounding land to sag. Old Jonathan Kent can prepare to change his career and stop losses this year. Clenching his fists, the dust around him kept floating because of the biological force field, and Clerk, wearing a red and blue combat suit, appeared in front of Zod. Slowly standing up, the dust could not block Clerk's sight. He caught Zod's figure at the first time, and thousands of words turned into a scolding. True Zod. You betrayed my trust. On the Kryptonian spaceship Black Zero, Zod trapped Clerk and stated that he wanted to transform the Earth into a new Krypton by destroying the Earth's creatures. Clerk certainly would not agree with this approach. Even if a new Krypton was established without damaging the Earth's ecology, General Zod's approach was just repeating the same mistakes. In fact, more than half a month ago, Black Zero entered the solar system. Zod discovered that Jello Sun could give them superpowers, so he ordered all the combatants to absorb the Jello Sun to become stronger, and scientists began to study their physique. Finally, scientists found that they would be affected by the Red Sun, which is the original sun of Krypton, and kryptonite could hurt them. In order to deal with Clark, the Kryptonian scientist Erdon Black Zero found kryptonite and mixed it with hypnotic. Because they were compatriots, Clark laid down some of his guard, which made Clark be fascinated by them, and Lois was also on the verge of death. But in the end, Clark forced her to come back and Lois was rescued by him. Just after settling Lois, Clark flew back to the town of Smallville to support Jello and Kara. The flying speed is a little slow. Is Sister Lois so powerful? Jello walked to Clark's side. With the power of Superman as a backup, he even started to be naughty. Glancing at Jello, Clark said, "If you want to talk nonsense, wait until the matter at hand is resolved." Okay. Jello turned his eyes to Fira and said to Clark, "Leave this guy to me. It's like playing chess, checkmate to checkmate, king to king." As soon as the voice fell, Jello rushed towards Fira. With Clark sharing the pressure from Zod, he dared to move the battlefield to other places. "However, has the evacuation notice been issued?" Jello asked while stabbing Fira with his spear. "I have hacked into the alarm system of the surrounding towns and issued an evacuation notice, but there are too many people and they've not been completely evacuated yet," Oa replied. "Damn it." Jello took a step back and avoided a dagger stabbing from Fira who came to him, and ordered Oa to continue to remind the alarm level to avoid casualties. As they were talking, Jello and Fira were fighting and retreating until they came to the railway. Seeing a coal train come in, Fira came up with a plan and flew towards the train with the help of the impact of Jello's spear. When she came to the locomotive, Fira grabbed the train and burst into power. The locomotive and all the carriages were lifted up by Fira, and then she threw the train towards Jello like a whip. Looking at the train flying towards him, Jello's supervision quickly caught the two train drivers who were already panicking. He used telekinesis to speed himself up, flew into the locomotive and grabbed the two drivers, and used telekinesis to send them a few hundred meters away. Fira took advantage of Jello's opportunity to save people and used her not-so-proficient thermal vision. The thermal vision of at least 6,000 degrees Celsius swept through all the carriages, and the coal became the best combustion aid. With a loud boom, Jello's figure was submerged in the flames. Looking at the blazing fire, Fira smiled coldly and said, "You are not suitable to be a warrior if you are so kind. Kindness will only lead you to death." "That may not be certain." Jello's voice came from the flames. The next second, a spear pierced the flames, and the flames illuminated the spearhead. With the move of telekinesis, the spear accelerated again, and Fira almost got caught in it, but telekinesis was difficult to defend against. The spear turned in mid-air and pierced Fira's shoulder. The Kryptonian armor seemed so weak at this moment that it was pierced by the spear. Jello also came to Fira at this time. The shield on his left arm was not for show. He slapped Fira's head. Dang! With a loud noise, Fira felt stars in front of her eyes and her mask was broken. It was easy for the shield to break the mask, but when the shield hit Fira's head, it was the shield that was broken. Crack, crack. The shield kept breaking, and it broke into more than a dozen pieces on the spot. Jello secretly sighed at the terrible defense of the Kryptonians, and then immediately used telekinesis to control the shield fragments to turn into flying knives and fly towards Fira. The trajectory of the flying knives turned into shield fragments was unpredictable, and combined with the fighting skills that Jello himself learned from Leo's projection, it was enough to make Fira passively defend. Using telekinesis to form all the fragments into a high-speed rotating drill, Jello gently waved his right hand, and the drill attacked Fira. Fira quickly raised her hands to form an X-shaped defensor. Knowing that he could not give his opponent a chance to breathe, Jello immediately put away his spear, and condensed an 8-point light wheel in each hand. One was thrown out and controlled by telekinesis to attack Fira's back, and the other was held in Jello's hand as a melee weapon. "Ah!" Fira shouted softly, and the power burst out from her body, repelling all the fragments, and then forced to turn around and smashed an 8-point light wheel with her fist. However, a loud shout came from above her head. "Ah!" Then, Zero fell with the 8-point light wheel. The high-speed rotating 8-point light wheel rubbed a lot of sparks on Fira's body. The pain and the teeth-grinding sound made Fira grit her teeth. In order to fight back, she ignored her injuries and waved her dagger towards Zero. Using this injury-for-injury fighting method, Fira's dagger slashed Zero's helmet, leaving a mark on Zero's helmet. Zero, who was slashed by a knife, was about to organize his strength to fight back, but he didn't expect a figure to rush out from a distance. He passed Zero, grabbed Fura, and then tried his best to fly high into the sky. With the help of supervision, Zero saw that it was Zod, and in addition to Fura, he also brought Eek. It seemed that they should have lost to Clerk and Kura, so they chose to escape. Following the direction of Zod's escape, Clerk and Kura also flew over. They stopped when they saw Zero, and Zod's speed of running away was too fast, so they didn't continue to chase him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.